All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mindgasms. So, uh, we got Chris James here and the woke centrist, of course, with his Wheel of Time avatar there. And we're going to talk about the recent American election. I made a sufficiently alarmist title there. Game of Thrones corrupt war criminal Joe Biden took bumbling narcissist Trump's fake populist crown. Yeah, I do. I do. Like I personally, I personally am not a fan of Trump or Biden. I like Trump much less than Biden in terms of his character, but I think that in terms of his governing, he won't be all that different from Joe Biden, um, which I've been kind of convinced of by progressives that I know Dusty and I both follow, and I kind of wanted to talk about how, that's about the election in general, how it went with the mail in voting, how Biden barely squeaked out a win, which is also very different in terms of the polls, and similarly to how it was in 2016, and how Trump, of course, which should surprise no one, that Trump is being a sore loser about it and all that kind of stuff, but also how I personally think there are a few good things about each of them too. And I know you guys are probably aware of more details about some of this stuff than I am for sure. So yeah, to start with, I guess since we're Canadian and you're American, Dusty, what are your thoughts in general about it?
Well, I think my biggest thing is, are we going to see more division or less? My guess is we're going to see a little less. That's just because Biden is a centrist type, and we saw I can't think of any campaign stump speech. Jesus.
Getting a phone
Give me
call?
a second. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's one thing that I've heard people say before that I kind of agree with. I don't know what you think about that, Chris, but I think it's probably true that Trump being elected would have led to more animosity and violence and protests and riots than stuff than perhaps might happen since Biden got elected. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I am American.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm both. I'm a dual citizen. So I was
Oh, okay.
born in the United States, but yeah, I do currently live in Canada. So politics, I mean, I kind of watch this, I love politics. I watch, this is kind of it's like I watch it like sports, right? But it does kind of affect me in some way. I know I live in Canada, so it doesn't affect me, you know, kind of on a day-to-day basis, but I do have family that still lives down there, aunts, uncles, grandma still, so it does affect them, so it still does kind of affect me to an extent. So I just wanted to state that first, because I think people, if they watch this, they do kind of think, two Canadian guys talking about this, what the fuck, what the fuck do they have to say? So
Yeah, that's why I follow it too. It's like sports to me.
yeah, it is sports, but at the same time, I do kind of, yeah, I pay attention because it does, somewhat affect me. So, and I agree. I think that having a Biden presidency will, if anything, cool the temperature politically for the next little bit.
Yeah, and I don't expect much to happen. Because if you remember at the beginning of the Trump presidency, there was a lot of shit going on, and that's because they had complete control of the House and Senate, so he could basically pass whatever he wanted. That's not going to happen here. I don't think the Democrats are going to gain control of the Senate. I'm not optimistic there. I think it's going to stay a majority Republican. And if that happens, we're just going to see the same stagnant government that we've seen for the past 2 years. Like, nothing's been happening. Nothing major. Like, they can't pass stimulus bills. It's like they can't do shit, and that's basically
Yeah.
what's going to happen for the next 2 years. The
Yeah.
only thing that the president has unchecked power, that's when he's dealing with foreign policy and domestic policy. He has to go through Congress and go through all the checks and balances. But when he's doing shit overseas, that's what you would have to be scared about. And when it comes to that, it's like, what's Biden going to do? It really depends on who he has advising him.
It
Like,
wouldn't surprise me at all if he has like basically the same or really similar advisors as Trump and just continues all the wars in the Middle East, at least, if not starting more.
well, I hope we don't see a return of John Bolton. I don't think we're going to get that far. But we just have to see. It's hard to tell what's going to happen until we see those advisors, because as soon as we saw that the swamp was coming back, when Donald Trump got the swamp creatures back in Washington, we knew that it was going to be more of the same as far as, foreign policy and things like that. So it really just highly depends on who he's bringing on in his cabinet and the State Department and things in that nature. We'll just have to see what happens.
Has that been released or not? Because I thought I had seen like Jimmy Dore and maybe Kyle Kalinske reporting on how his list of cabinet members was all like Wall Street and military industrial complex people or something like that.
I have no idea. I haven't taken a look yet.
Okay.
Because the one thing we got to remember too is that these people have to be go through a vetting process through Congress. So it's not as simple as he gets to pick whoever he wants. This is that's basically why we got swamp creatures the last time, because your cabinet has to be okayed. You can't just pick like a random, like, crazy ass person.
Right.
Or like one of Trump's kids, something of that nature. It probably would have gotten hard.
Anyway.
Well, they're just like advisors. They don't really have cabinet positions. It's kind of crazy that Jared Kushner had to get security clearance. Like, I don't really think that's wise or appropriate.
I agree.
But yeah, I guess as kids, yeah, they were kind of there, but they weren't put into any official cabinet positions. They're just special advisors. They didn't really have a very specific role in the cabinet.
Yeah, I think Jared had the biggest
their role is to get paid money.
Well, I don't even know how they get paid. I'm pretty sure they do, but it's probably nothing compared to whatever they were doing in the private sector.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like those positions that people taking in the government, they're not getting paid. Well, comparatively, relatively. Like if I was in one of those jobs, yes, I would be making much more than I am now. But for most of them, they're taking a huge pay cut.
Yeah, and I think the Trump brand has been kind of tarnished. I mean, like Ivanka's. I wouldn't say her fashion line is, on the high end of the stock market right now, right? So
I don't know what's going on with that at all.
Yeah,
but I don't know. We'll have to see, years down the line how the Trump name fares.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? What is it? The Lincoln Project that are apparently trying to start their own news network, which are like purportedly a conservative anti-Trump organization.
Well, I don't know what they're going to do now. Who are they going to fight against now? Basically, what, far lefties? Is that what they're going to do now?
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Now that Trump is, well, if he is gone, then they're gonna have nothing to. Yeah, they're done pretty much. What do they have to complain about, right? What videos are they gonna make to go viral? I mean, if Orange Man Bad is no longer in office, yeah,
They could make anti-Biden videos.
yeah, but I don't think doesn't stick as much. I don't know. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
you could
probably
go
true.
anti-Biden or make fun of his kind of cognitive decline, but I think that's kind of cruel at this point. Or I don't know, but I don't think it would be received well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just neocons. Like, I didn't really I guess I didn't really understand the whole Lincoln Project thing in the first place. I
I just
think
like how Trump being president made some liberals and Democrats speak out in favor of neoconservative warmongers like John Bolton and George W. Bush occasionally.
did they really? Oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Like, I don't know. I just don't want people to shoot each other in the streets over this bullshit.
Yeah. Well, that's hopefully, like we were saying, that's one of the benefits of Biden being president rather than Trump.
Yeah, the rhetoric is like night and day. All Trump did was attack the left, the far left. What was it, like radical leftists, anarchists, and yada yada yada. That was basically the sum of his rhetoric.
He was like not Tim Pool. He was like Alex Jones. Yeah, Alex Jones combined with Tim Pool, really.
Pretty much. And Biden is not treating Republicans as enemies. He's just really trying to work with people. And that's kind of, yeah, the guy's a centrist, but throughout his career, that's basically what he did. Like, yeah, he might be a doddering old man now, but at least we don't have him inflaming psychopaths into doing stupid shit.
Yeah. What do you think about? I personally think that people are kind of exaggerating when, like you mentioned, how he's a doddering old man, and he is, and I think it's probably true what some people say about him having cognitive decline, but I don't think he has like dementia, and I don't think, like, I've seen a lot of political commentators saying, I don't think he's going to last much more than a year. I just think, yeah, he's already old as fuck, but I mean, there's this thing called modern medicine, and he can have as full access as he wants because he'll be the president. I think they're going to preserve his life for, I mean, I don't know how long, maybe one term. It wouldn't surprise me if he makes it for a full term as president.
It's not surprising. Like, people are acting like he's in like stage 4 Alzheimer's or something.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, like, anyone who's been following Joe Biden, like even pre-Obama, knows that he sticks his foot in his mouth all the fucking time. It's nothing new. Like, he's always said stupid gaffes and stumbled over words. That's not any sign of any change. Like, I guess his sharpness, he's a little bit dull. Like, I think they were trying to compare. I watched a YouTube video of kind of an analysis of a debate he had against Paul Ryan during Obama's second term, and he did perform pretty well. He was really sharp. You could see, nowadays he's like I think one of the things that they did you guys watch the last debate?
No, as usual, I just watch like political commentator videos about it.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so
I did.
the last
You
debate, I
did, Chris?
think the
You watched it, Chris? You said?
Yeah, I did. Sorry.
Oh,
oh yeah, so the last debate, the right was getting like hanging on to some little thing that Biden did, and I guess they didn't get it what Biden was trying to do, but there was a part where Trump was like, "Yeah, I've done more for the black community since like Abraham Lincoln."
I heard about that.
And then Biden's like, well, Abraham Lincoln here has thrown kids in cages and all the other rhetoric. And then Trump's like, did you just call me Abraham Lincoln? Because I think he was trying to say that, oh, Biden is like confusing himself and he has dementia. And he's like, yeah, you're the one who said, like, I get what Biden was trying to say. There, I didn't really find it as like, oh, he's so demented that he thought Trump was Abraham Lincoln. But it was funny that the right was really clamping down on that specific sarcasm.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, here's an example of Joe Biden like
Oh my
having
God.
dementia. He
It's
called.
so hilarious to me how like I guess more like mainstream TV media, like more left-wing mainstream media like CNN or something like that, they totally misinterpret what people on the right are saying, and then people on the right-wing like TV media and even like YouTube and shit like that too, they totally misinterpret people on the left too, like saying like Biden's a socialist. He's all like controlled by Black Lives Matter and he's a communist and shit, bro. Like, are you fucking kidding me, man? That's so
Dude, like every single election that I can even think of, they've called the Democratic nominee a socialist.
yeah, they
They,
did that.
they
With
called
Obama. They do
Obama a
that with everyone.
socialist.
Yeah,
And I'm pretty sure they probably called Bill Clinton. Well, Bill Clinton was like basically a Republican.
yeah. Wasn't he like? He was like he was like the one of
He was the
like
proto neoliberal. He was like the first
yeah,
neoliberal.
yeah. Well said.
Um,
Yeah,
But yeah, his rhetoric, he like had law and order rhetoric. He had immigration rhetoric. He was like indistinguishable from a modern day Republican. I'm not sure if they ever called him a socialist, but I wouldn't
yeah.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Well, is it? Do you think it's true that do you both of you guys think it's true that Biden is kind of governing in like the same sort of pattern as Bill Clinton and Obama were, like trying to make compromises with the right and saying like, "Hey, I'm not a far leftist. I'm doing like more right-wing stuff too."
I don't know. It's hard to say because I haven't looked over all his policies. Like the one that I did look over today was like the COVID-19 thing, and it's not concrete. It's like extremely vague. It doesn't talk about any monetary assistance. Doesn't talk about any type of stimulus. It's just like, oh yeah, more PPE,
That's what
more.
That's one thing that I agree with like these progressive political commentators about that, and even like populist right wingers I've seen make this point, like that guy Sager and Jetty on the Hill, that it's totally disgusting for all American politicians in general that they still haven't given like financial stimulus or healthcare to people during a pandemic. Like whether you believe in like Medicare for all or a UBI or something like that in general, like if you have a pandemic when people are not, but when people can't work and they don't have any way to use money and they're going to get kicked out of their fucking houses if they don't have money, and they can't have money through their job because they're not working, and they can't have health care through that because they're not working, so they can't have health care or money, but like the Democrats and Nancy Pelosi don't want to work with the Republicans even for providing people with money, health care, and homes during a pandemic because it would be like favorable to Trump because Trump wants to be a narcissist about it and have it be like, here's the Trump check for you for your Trumpness. You are now loyal to Trump for accepting this money.
Yeah, I remember the check. I was like, yeah, whatever. It's like I didn't fall to my knees and put my hands together and pray to God Emperor Trump. I just put it in my bank account and
Yeah.
like, what am I gonna buy with this? I guess I'll buy a Nintendo Switch. Here we go.
Good idea.
Nice.
Oh, McEldoon just said this about Trump, by the way. I think that's a good comment. I like losing his wits Biden more than fully cognizant, sanctimonious Biden. Yeah, you could say that.
By the way, I have
Losing his wits Biden.
CNN on in the background, and it says breaking news: Biden to deliver remarks tomorrow on COVID-19 plan. So I know, Dusty, you were saying you're not too sure what his plan was. I think you'll probably
I read it.
more. Oh, it's already out?
He released. Well, a news outlet released it, and it had like 6 points, and I was like, this does not go far enough at all. It's basically point one. Oh, I will listen to the science community and the experts. Like, duh. It's kind of what you're kind of supposed to do. Next point was like, yeah, we will increase PPE production and testing. I was like, okay, all right. It says nothing about, oh, are you going to give this shit away for free? It's like, are you going to give us free testing? Are you going to give us free PPE?
Good point.
It's like some people can't afford that shit right now, especially. There was nothing about getting small businesses ready with reopening. So I was like, man, this is kind of a super milquetoast plan that really doesn't go far enough. Like, it's one for me to say because I wasn't really affected by this thing like a lot of people were, but I'm pretty sure people are like, this is kind of it's all common sense stuff, but it's all stuff that's like, well, I'm not sure how much this stuff is going to help now. I think another thing he says, he's going to make sure that the vaccine production is up. And this is probably all shit that probably Trump was working on. I'm pretty sure he was working on the logistics behind delivering the vaccine. I know he used some type of wartime legislation to get some production up in some of these PPE things. So like all the stuff that he's saying is like, yeah, wasn't Trump done like half of this stuff? I guess the science denial was like the main thing, but
yeah,
a lot of the others.
This is how I see it. I mean, like, there's a lot at stake here. If you're a pharmaceutical company and you have the backing to even come up with any kind of vaccine, you're rushing to get this out ASAP. So regardless, let's say Hitler's in office right now, you're still working your ass off to try to get a vaccine because there's probably a lot of money involved and you want to be known as a worldwide hero, right? So I would say it doesn't matter if Biden or Trump is in office. I still think that the vaccine is still in a rush. Like I think Johnson & Johnson, I heard, and Pfizer, and there's a few other pharmaceuticals that are currently in still production or testing phases at the moment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like even for Trump, it would help his ego to be known that way. I saved people from the Wuhan virus. It was on me.
The Wuhan flu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, McEldoon said this about Biden. Everyone has their favorite version of Biden, kind of like Malibu Barbie.
Yeah, because a lot of the outlets have posted like Biden's COVID response plan, and I was just like totally not impressed. I was like, well, this is all common sense stuff that seems like half of it. But here's one thing. I think he's actually going to push for a national mask mandate. Who knows what's going to happen there?
Uh, People on the right aren't going to like that. I don't even
Mm.
honestly like that idea much, and I'm like, I just I'm just uncertain about it. That's all. Because like here in
Uh-oh.
Canada, it's kind of similar to the way that it is in the States right now. Like the leaders of each province can determine what they do, and I think in Alberta there was recently a mandatory mask mandate, or at least there was here in Fort McMurray, because the number of cases started going up. And I mean, like, I've never been the type of person that would not wear a mask. I'm definitely wearing a mask when I go everywhere because I know this is a serious virus, and I'm not fucking politicizing whether I'm wearing a mask or not. And it's not a big deal. But I like, if people want to be dumbasses and not wear a mask, I mean, it's a complex issue because, like, generally speaking, I would say I kind of want to just let them be a dumbass. But if we as a society let them be dumbasses, then they're going around spreading viruses more than is necessary too. So I don't know, what to think about that, really. I'm just uncertain about it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's going to try to get the testing free
That's a good
as
idea.
well. I think that's pretty important because I was hearing um, just like people talking about it because one of my daughter's moms caught it and they were like trying to find tests and they were pretty expensive. I don't know how it is now, but this was probably in March, so who knows. But yeah, it looks like another thing he wants to do is get paid leave, sick leave for everybody that
That's good.
contracts the virus.
That's good. I think we're already
Um,
doing that here in Canada, at least in some provinces. We're doing it here in Alberta, I know. Are they doing it there in Ontario, Chris?
Yeah, but we're like Ontario's we're getting our ass kicked right now, and we've gone through. I honestly I don't know what to think anymore. We've gone through so many different changes in legislation to different lockdown phases. To we've been mask mandate now for 2 to 3 months in the city that I lived in, and over the last 3 days we've set the record for our city for the most amount of cases. And everywhere I go, it's mask, 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 mask. So and socially distance. Everybody here has been really good. I mean, yeah, we're just getting our ass kicked right now. But at the same time, we never got hit in March and April, really. So, yeah, I just don't know. I just maybe these places just got to get hit and go through it. And again, I don't know. I just, yeah, mask mandate here, and yeah, and I don't like.
do you guys have indoor things still open and stuff like that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
our malls are still open here, and just to tie it into like Biden, I don't really see Trudeau, our prime minister, as handling COVID the best. I mean,
me neither.
I think you could do this with everybody across the globe. Like some prime ministers and some people have handled this really good. Some people haven't. Some, you know what I mean? I just,
No problem over here is what people got one $1,200 check.
Yeah,
That's what they got, a
it's
$1,200 check
awful.
the
It's
whole year. I think
man.
that's fucking terrible. Like,
Yeah,
I feel really bad for the people who actually need the stimulus. I didn't need the $1,200 check. I was just like, yay, cool. Um, it's basically for me. It's just like, oh, I got my taxes back for the year. Cool. That's
right.
basically what it was. But there are people that really need that money and they're not
Mhm.
getting it.
Yeah,
yep. Now, same
And then
here.
they're thinking,
We had checks for a while, and then there's no longer any checks anymore. So there's still people that
mm,
are unemployed. Our restaurants are being decimated. I see businesses closing up all the time. So
Yeah, me
I don't
too.
think anybody was a winner out of this thing, but I don't think what I'm getting at is to tie it back into Biden. I don't think he's going to, like Dusty was saying, he read the plan and it didn't really shock him. I don't think anybody's going to come in here with the magic cure.
Yeah, I think Biden's basically lucky in that he's getting the tail end of the virus.
Yeah.
Not when I don't feel like it's going to rage any further than it has already. We're coming into a second surge right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't.
You guys are getting your butt kicked right now too. I think you said.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I think last time I looked, I think there was like over 100,000 in one day of cases. I think some hospitals are getting filled up again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's mainly because it's wintertime and people are huddling together. We'll see what happens in Thanksgiving and travel holidays. Who knows? I know we're not traveling, and we just don't travel much anyway. But yeah, it's kind of sucks because we're just wary of going anywhere and catching anything, and yeah, it's almost, I could feel like one of the families we know caught it, and I could almost sense that, oh yeah, they're free to do so much shit because they already got the immunity from it. It's like they could send their kid to school, not be worried.
Oh yeah.
Like they wear masks as a courtesy, but they really don't need to because they've already gone through it. But I don't know. I just don't want to take the chance. I know statistically, me dying of it would be very low. Like Chris Christie is alive, so.
Yeah.
So
and I don't think healthier than Trump, who also survived it.
Yeah.
Well, Chris Christie went to ICU though, so that's not it's not something to kind of just dismiss off a hand. He did go to intensive care unit, but he survived. But then again, I don't have Chris Christie health care either, so.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. Yeah.
I'd probably get bankrupted right now if I went to the ICU.
Yeah.
And that's another big thing. Like, I wonder how many Americans have been bankrupted from a loved one who caught this and had to spend months in some of these people that catch it spend months in hospitals.
Yeah, like that's just cruel, man. Like that's one of the that's kind of one of the progressive policy prescriptions that I agree with, because it's already instituted here in Canada. And I mean, there are a few kind of like little flaws, but I think overall it's way better than a private healthcare system.
Yeah, because spending a night in a hospital, that's just one night is like a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I told you about my emergency room experience, but
where you paid $1,200 or $1,500, was it, to basically
like
$1,200 have a nurse wipe blood off your forehead?
Basically, yeah. That's what the bill was, and I had to haggle with them. I was like, I'm not paying this shit.
Yeah.
And then they sent me another bill. I was like, I ain't paying this shit either. You guys are crazy. And then finally, like, the last bill is like, well, we'll take it down to like $400. I was like, even then, it's still too much.
Yeah.
Like, all you did was wipe blood off of my forehead. Why does it cost $400 to do that? I could have did that.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even want to go to the hospital. The cops forced me to lay down in the stupid gurney and to be taken away in the ambulance. I didn't want to go into the goddamn ambulance.
Yeah, like, that's fucked up, man. Like, you shouldn't have to be thinking that way.
I didn't want to go, and they're like, oh no, you can't get up. You got to stay on the gurney. It's like, well, I don't need to go to the hospital. And then I go, and they want to charge me. initially $1,200 to wipe blood off of my forehead. That's how crazy the prices are here.
Yeah,
that's
man, that's crazy.
Like,
Like,
I remember, like, I remember, like, when I had some shitty insurance, like, whether it's going to be shitty. So just, I think I had like an ear infection or some vertigo or something. And I spent like 3 minutes with a doctor, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you just have an ear infection. Here's a prescription." I went to the pharmacy. I'm like, "Oh yeah, this medicine's going to be $30, but if you look over there and you grab this, it's just $1." And it was just like some generic ass seasickness medication. And they're like, "Yeah, it's the same thing. You shouldn't really buy this prescription." And then I spent $100 to tell a doctor to tell me to buy seasickness medication. I don't know. It's almost like if I did telemedicine, like how much would that have cost? Like I literally only spent like 3 minutes with the guy, and you know, and insurance is fucking expensive here too. Like I'm about to get like my insurance, like yearly your employer negotiates fees with the insurance company. So my benefits choice is coming up next week. I wonder what I'm going to have to pay, because you got to pay depending on what you want. Like you get really shitty insurance, and you'll probably have to spend like $80 a paycheck, or you can get like the really good. Well, I wouldn't say really good because it really isn't that good, but the better insurance, and you're paying like $230 a paycheck or something like that. It's just shitty just having to it's like you're gambling with your life. Like, do I want to pay this insurance, or should it go, for a year and nothing major will happen, hopefully?
am I really going to need surgery this year? Like, I'll
Yeah,
be okay.
exactly. It's like you're gambling, basically. But this year, because I had some really shitty health insurance this past year, so I think I might upgrade it, but it's going to cost me more.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know what to say. I mean, I think here in Canada, socialized medicine is. Oh, I think a majority of Western countries kind of look at you guys like, all right, we've kind of adopted, and we're not a perfect system at all. Whereas are totally flawed. I have a significant other that works in the healthcare field, and if she was on here, she could go through all day about how deeply flawed our healthcare system is. But it's at least a baseline, something that protects you no matter what, and especially when a pandemic hits your country, you got that as kind of like to rely on just at the end of the day, and you guys don't have that, and I think that's a shame.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, go Tommy
yeah,
Douglas.
you only have healthcare if you have a job. Well,
Yeah.
well, I'll say you only have healthcare if you have a full-time job. And a lot of
Really?
people don't have full-time jobs. Like a lot
I
of
didn't
people
realize
work
you don't
like a
you
couple
don't get that
different.
with a part-time job. Wow.
No employer is required to offer insurance to anyone that works less than 30 hours a week.
Oh, that's so fucked up, man.
Yeah. Like luckily, one of my jobs, because I have two jobs, and one of my jobs I work like 34 hours, so I get to qualify for that. Because I have paid for insurance on my own. And this was early on when they had like those insurance marketplaces from Obamacare. And I was able to get some pretty decent insurance for like $200 a month. But now I can't get anything near that now. It would be impossible for me to find.
Yeah, like that's wow. Like I would not be able to afford healthcare if I had to pay $2,000 a month, and I'm sure a ton of people would not be able to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh no, like I don't personally have to pay that much, but if you have like a big family and you got to cover all your kids and shit, yeah, you're gonna be paying like that much.
Or if you had like a job and then something like COVID has, and then you lose that job, right? And then your health insurance or whatever, that also goes away too. And you're relying on your saving. I mean, there's so many variables there that could end up in a disaster just by not having, like I said, a baseline healthcare system. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
might be able to get state coverage because some states do offer low income like health plans. Because I remember when I was in California, and California is actually really good with this. If you don't make a whole lot of money, you can actually get state health care that the state of California runs. And I had like health coverage for almost a whole year from them, and I didn't have to pay a single dime. But that depends on what state you're in. And that's
Yeah.
when I was like unemployed for almost a year. And I
yeah.
had to get a surgery for something, so they approved of the health care. So I was like, oh shit, you guys are like awesome. I know
Yeah.
people are always hating on California on YouTube and shit
Mhm.
like that, but like I remember how much resources were available for me there when shit hit the fan.
Yeah. Yeah. We should get into like more like other specific types of policies, like you mentioned foreign policy earlier, well,
Well, didn't you said you read a book like about Obama, and you said that like Biden was like less of a war hawk than Obama
yeah,
was or something like that.
yeah, that was actually the most the most convincing favorable perspective I've gotten on Biden so far, and it was a book by Bob Woodward, that I think I might make a video about at some point. It was called Obama's Wars, and a lot of it was about foreign policy and the sheer power of the military-industrial complex, and how, like, both Obama and Biden still bear responsibility for their decisions, of course. But um, even though even though Obama, he did end up kind of governing as a war hawk, he did seem to genuinely want to scale back the wars more than he was able to do. And when he was escalating the wars based on pressure from generals about that, he when he was going forward with stuff like that, Biden was at the time pressuring Obama and his advisors to like scale back on the war effort, and he was like being more resistant than Obama and other people apparently.
Hmm. Well, that's interesting. We'll see what happens with
Yeah.
his administration.
I mean, I don't know if you guys have, but I haven't heard him say any rhetoric against war anytime recently that I can remember. And I mean, he did, like, while he was vice president, they still did like start new wars and continue all the ones that were going on. I mean, he was better
Well,
than,
he's gonna avoid that topic like the plague because he voted for Iraq. So
yeah,
he's just not gonna talk about it.
yeah,
Because if he does talk about it, people are gonna bring up his voting record for that.
yeah. Yeah,
So yeah,
and it's like of course, another thing that a lot of people have pointed out about Biden and Kamala is that they've really both made extremely conscious and like dedicated efforts to escalate the drug war, right? With Biden's 1994 crime bill, and with Kamala locking up people for like smoking weed and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't, because I don't have a good history laid out of what Kamala has or hasn't done. Like I've heard like some anecdotes about certain things. Um, it's going to be hard unless we have some investigative journalists like really looking into like what she did. And problem is we don't have that yet. It's just certain people providing certain anecdotes. Because I really feel uninformed. Like I know, like regarding her like her record as a prosecutor, that was like years ago. Like it's, we're talking years and years ago. Like in the 90s. So it's likely she was a prosecutor during like the big surge in the drug war to combat these things. So I would assume that um, she would have been taking care of a lot of, um, well, not taking care of, but at least putting a lot of people in jail for drug stuff. But when I was reading her book, I think like her main focus, she didn't really talk about that side of her prosecutorial record at all. So I'm kind of more interested in finding out about that if any journalist is willing to go digging. You know, I'll be the first one to check their book out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, her book was mainly about prosecuting like special victims unit type of crimes. Like
Yeah. And you said that she like fought a lot of the banks and corporations that basically caused the financial crash in 2008, right? Which is also a good thing.
yeah, because she was trying to negotiate a settlement with the banks for malfeasance. So she was actually, California was suing them, and before they got into court, they were trying to negotiate some type of settlement. I think like the banks were like, "Oh yeah, we'll give you like $1 billion," and then Kamala's like, "Hell no, that's not going to cut it." So I think she got like 18 billion or something like that from the banks, and
Oh,
they used that money for relief, foreclosure relief, and stuff like that for people. But like at the time that they got this settlement, like it was already too late for a lot of people who had lost their homes already.
oh, okay.
So yeah, it was a nice effort, but because litigation is litigation and it always takes a long ass time for things to happen, it's kind of, yeah, you did a good job, but you know, a lot of these people have already succumbed to the damage that was done.
Okay. This person here said, T20 said this: Biden Harris need to enjoy this while it lasts. Feels forced on America. And then they said, the fraud will be televised. So much dirt, the media will have to report on it. I'm not sure what fraud exactly you're referring to there. So let us know in the comments what you're talking about. But do you guys think there's any fraud there?
There probably is, just not at a large ass scale. You know, there's always going to be your isolated incidents where dumbasses turn in like a dead relative's vote or something like that.
Oh
Like, I
yeah.
have no doubt that stuff like that has happened and probably did happen. I have major doubts that it happened in such a large scale that it tipped the election.
Oh
We're
yeah.
talking about, in order for Trump to win the presidency, he has to flip 4 states that
Yeah.
Biden won.
Oh, if that's what that commenter is referring to, I'm curious about what you think about this too, Chris. But I think he did, like Biden. It seems to me, I'm sure not a fucking expert, but it seems to me like he did just barely, legitimately, just barely squeak out a win.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not gonna lie, I'm skeptical. just because of the polls. I'm a real clear politics kind of guy. I kind of was paying attention all along, and it was 8 to 10 nationally, and usual suspects on Twitter, the Nate Silvers of the world, were all projecting that these were pretty close. You had the only one I think was.
Did you just mute yourself there, Chris?
Yeah, cut off there.
Your sound got cut off.
No.
Oh, is your sound not working?
We don't get to hear about his real clear politics.
Yeah.
While he fixes that,
in the meantime, I'll show what this commenter said.
Oh,
there
wait, check. Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Okay, where did... Anyway, I was just saying I'm skeptical, just because I don't know, I was like, yeah, Biden was projected 8 to 10 points, and then, yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Let's see. It says, no way that Donald Trump got more popular votes than Obama in 2008 and still lose.
I don't know about that. I don't know anything about.
Well, they both got more popular votes than Obama. So
okay.
It's kind of like a sorry commenter. Like that's not that smart of a statement. Like
it's sad that apparently Biden got more votes than any other presidential candidate or something like that. At least that's what some person said. Maybe it's bullshit. But
yeah, no, that's right.
True.
That's right.
That's true.
Oh, okay. Like
more people. This election, a lot of people voted.
Barely more than half the people voting for him. So that means like almost half of the country did not vote for him, and he's the most popular.
Well, think about this. Last election, I think it was 20 million less people voted.
Yeah, there was a higher turnout this election, right?
Yeah, and it was an extremely high turnout this election. Yeah. Like a ridiculously high turnout. A lot of that had to do with the ease of voting when it came to absentee voting, because I had never done it before. I was kind of skeptical of it because you're hearing all these reports of dumbasses like setting ballot boxes on fire and shit. So I was like, "Fuck, I better get this done." But on my county, it actually shows when they received your vote. So I was like, okay, if they don't receive my vote by election day, I'm going to have to go in and do it. But they received it the day before. I was like, okay, that means I don't have to go in and do it, and everything's all good for me. So I didn't go to the polls, even though in my county, it's never crowded. I didn't know what it was going to be like this year. My wife went. She said it wasn't crowded because she didn't get her absentee ballot application. Because it's like in my state, it's a 2-tier process. You have to file for an application to vote absentee. You send that in. And then if they approve your application, they send you the absentee ballot. And they have this like stupid way of having to envelope the ballot in like 2 separate envelopes. I was like, you had to follow these instructions just so your ballot doesn't get rejected. And I guess I did it right. So fine with that. But yeah, this turnout this year was insane. I think a lot of it had to do with the political climate is so pervasive in everything. It just seeps into everything we see. Like, I don't remember in like the Obama years or even in the Bush years, like the late night shows made fun of the president, but I don't remember people like breaking down into tears over shit that the president wasn't doing on live TV.
Yeah.
So I guess this was just like a super polarizing thing. And, we saw the mass Karens and all the crazy. And I think like another contributor is like, all the street violence that we see regarding like look at all the political violence that's happened in the past year or two. Like I consider riots political violence. I consider anything surrounding that just like all the crazy shit from politics. Like Jesus, man, again, kidnapping plots and shit like that. Like, fuck, man, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
And then Charlottesville, just crazy shit like that, man.
Yeah, like especially all the protests recently, right? Like there were protests to open up the market from more like right-leaning people, and then after COVID, there were protests against people who wanted to open the market by more left-wing people, and then there were these like fights with groups in the streets and shit like that. And what you were saying about the like how there's a different atmosphere too relates to that other person from before commenting the spirit in 2008 felt way different than now. I think that's probably true. And,
yeah, totally.
And then this commenter said these things: more people voted against Trump than for Biden, and turnout was high because of it. I think
I believe that's true too.
That sounds probably accurate. I don't agree with what they said here though. Biden won this election by a lot. He will be over 300 electoral votes and will have won the popular vote by 5% when it's all said and done. Even if he won it by 5%, like I thought
that's a lot.
Is it a lot? Like it seems like
it's not close.
Is it? It's true that he's going to be over 300 electoral votes?
I believe so. Well,
oh, okay.
I don't know. I gave up on the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he won all of the states that he was in the lead in, then yes, he'd be over 300.
Okay. Did he?
Well, some of them are still in the air. They still haven't called them.
Okay.
Because I was using the AP for the results, and if he wins Georgia right now, because right now he's in the lead. So if he wins that, they'll put him above 300. Let me actually see where it puts him at, just to get some numbers here. So right now he's at 290. This is the AP reporting. If he gets Georgia, he gets 16, which would put him at 306. Which is basically a repeat of the last election in reverse.
Right.
I'll say this. I think that I think we'll know in the next month or two for sure. I think there's a few states that are going to be recalled, and I think that it's close enough to have that recall. And I think that
we'll see.
We'll see for sure, and I'm fine with that. I'm also fine with the Biden presidency too, so I'm fine with all of that stuff. But everybody in the world is watching this, not just Americans, but every expert on math. You got British scientists. You're going to find it out soon, right? If there's any discrepancies in the numbers, you're going to find it out probably in the next like week or two or 3 or 4. It's not going to be that long, right? And I think because like I'm sorry, I'm seeing Trump is not going to concede on CNN too, right in front of me. So
like even if he doesn't concede, he's gonna be forced out of office, even if he doesn't willfully.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he'll be either forced out of office or concede. I just think that in a month or two, or I think that the numbers are still, people are still working on these numbers. We'll know soon if. Yeah, this is 100% accurate. That's all.
Well, let me give you some context. Like the 2000 election, Bush v. Gore, the margin was 537 votes.
That's holy shit. That actually reminds me of something I was just thinking about too, because now this is again just something that I heard, but on the Joe Rogan podcast that I was watching yesterday with Mike Baker, who's that guy who used to work for the CIA. He said that.
Yes, I listened to that one too.
Okay, yeah, he was talking about how it's totally not unprecedented for them to take a while to figure out the election. Like with Bush and Gore, I forget how long he said it.
36 days.
36 days, yeah, to figure out that one, which I didn't know. So that's good for people to remember, I think, because it's like it doesn't mean that there's this like level of unprecedented chaos that hasn't happened before.
Well, I just want to remind people, like, 537 votes is an extremely slim margin.
Yeah, yeah,
That's not the case for a lot of these states.
That's right.
Like, what is it, like 20,000 in Pennsylvania?
yeah,
It's a pretty big margin there. At best, I think his slimmest margin would probably be Georgia. And even if he was able to flip Georgia in the courts, that doesn't win him enough electoral votes. He has to do this for 4 states.
right.
And in one of the states, the margin is over 20,000 votes.
Yeah,
It's just not going to happen.
yeah.
Unless what are they going to do? They're going to throw out 20,000 votes? It's crazy.
Yeah. I like what this commenter said here. That's the environment we want to live in. That means I could have ran for president one just because people would vote against Trump. Sad. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, basically, Biden mostly campaigned on being anti-Trump. He's like, Trump's bad. I'm better, bro.
Yeah, and the general, basically, he very much focused on the COVID response.
Mm-hmm.
And
that part was smart because Trump really bumbled his COVID response.
Even if he didn't, policy-wise, he did with his rhetoric.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't know if any of the policies that he enacted would have changed anything.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But his rhetoric was just disturbingly inconsistent. And even after he caught it, he was like, "Oh yeah, you were the biggest mask I've ever seen."
He's like,
it's like I'm like, God damn it! Man. Are you in kindergarten, President Trump? Is that like the kind of that's like someone that would in kindergarten would say?
Yeah,
that's like he was the biggest mask I've ever seen. Jesus Christ! Like how stupid is that remark?
Yeah.
But whatever. And I think the Bob Woodward thing was pretty damaging.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of damage. Like the COVID stuff was really damaging. I think if COVID never happened, I believe Trump would have gotten reelected.
I think that too. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, COVID basically destroyed his presidency.
Yeah.
He wasn't it doesn't seem like he was taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, Fauci has a pretty high approval rating, and he's shitting on Fauci pretty much constantly.
Yeah.
And they kind of went to war in social media and in the media, so it's like, I don't know, man. It's like Trump was his own worst enemy.
Yeah, it was.
He just shut his mouth and tried to be serious about things, and maybe he would have had a shot. But
yeah,
he just had to go full conspiratard.
Yeah,
on everything, and that's why Trump being president is like Alex Jones. Like we elected Alex Jones. Like he just goes off on these stupid conspiracies and misinformation campaigns. Like people got to remember, this is the guy who started the birther movement, and he is now fucking president for the next couple months. But it's like, what do you guys think you're gonna get? But I wonder what's gonna happen to the media after he's out. Like, what are they gonna concentrate on?
I think CNN's done. CNN's done. I don't know what they're going to talk about.
What do you guys think about? I kind of agree with this point that I've heard. Like like Sager and Jetty and Crystal Ball, I think on that show, The Hill, they're right populist and left populist. They're making the point that Trump ran a way worse campaign this time. Like he was focusing on culture war stuff, like how Biden's apparently a socialist and this sort of shit. Whereas before he was being like as insulting and shit like that, but he was like pretending to be a populist, like saying we're gonna end these wars. I care for working class people. Of course, he didn't govern that way, but he was saying shit like that.
Well, I don't know. It's hard to say because, to be honest, the vice president doesn't have a.
I think your audio just got cut off there, Dusty.
You're being censored, man. They don't want to hear you.
Yeah, you're talking about the wrong stuff.
Because you can't talk conspiracy theories on.
Yeah, you
On
can't
live
even
stream.
talk about Trump.
You mentioned Alex Jones earlier. You blew it.
Oh,
They
yeah.
know.
We mentioned it like 3 times. It's like a magical incantation. Mention Alex Jones's name 3 times, and then you get censored.
Yeah, for sure. Or shit, it's even Trump, man. That guy, all of his tweets were censored. If you go through like the last 24 hours, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This that commenter made a good point again there. I think they said, "Why does COVID issues fall on either presidential candidate? Where is WHO criticism?" I think that's true. That like Trump has been blamed for 200,000 COVID deaths or something like that. I think that's kind of bullshit. I mean, there probably would have been less deaths if his response had been better, but that doesn't mean he's like generally responsible for COVID deaths. Like how would you even calculate that and implicate that into what you qualify as him being morally responsible for that? And you could say the same thing about Biden now that he's president while there's still COVID too.
They said, why aren't we blaming who?
I think they mean WHO. Like,
Yeah.
you know, how them and Fauci told people to not wear masks, where it was later found that they just kind of lied, and they said that so the emergency medical people could have more.
Well, the reason I don't blame the WHO is because the WHO's not the one making the decisions.
That's true.
And some other countries did what they did. Do we blame WHO on how Japan turned out? No.
No, that's a good point.
Do we blame the WHO on how Brazil turned out? No.
No.
We got to blame the people who are making the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we talk about the Iraq war, do we blame the people who gave the faulty intelligence or the people who acted on the faulty intelligence? The person who made the decisions.
Who acted on it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the people who make the decisions. It's while the WHO may share some blame, like the whole mask thing was like maybe for a month people were saying you didn't have to wear masks.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least like the WHO and Fauci. And I think Fauci's justification is he got more information and he changed his mind. I don't know if it had to do with the shortages or either, but it's a possibility. It's a little bit of both. Yeah,
that's true. And I mean, but to what you said there in terms of like the Iraq war, for example, they're like Trump still does bear some responsibility for that. Oh, I think Chris got kicked. Oh, wait, no, Dusty just got kicked out there. Oh, hopefully he'll be back in a sec. Yeah, was it? Oh, yeah, the Iraq war. I guess that by that logic. Oh, there's Dusty there. You got kicked out there, Dusty. Are you back there now? I still can't hear you. But yeah, in terms of the Iraq war with Biden, for example, like I guess by that logic, Trump still does bear some responsibility because, like I said, there probably would have been less COVID deaths if his response had been better. Like even including defunding that I forget what the organization is called. Maybe one of you guys can remind me when you come back, or one of you people in the comments. But like how he defunded that organization that is supposed to prepare for pandemics. And like by the same logic, Biden bears responsibility for voting for the Iraq war and believing those straight up lies perpetuated by intelligence organizations that lied America into the Iraq war. So he bears responsibility for that, and Trump bears responsibility for his COVID response too. But yeah, I don't know. Oh, you're back there, Chris?
Yeah,
Looks
sorry,
like
bathroom break, buddy. What did I miss?
no problem. I was just talking about how oh, there's Dusty. Dusty got kicked out there, but looks like he's back there now.
So you guys were talking about the lizard people or something like that?
Yeah, we were talking about how lizard people secretly control a one global government. The global elite control the government, and they're shape-shifting lizard people, and they're interdimensional child molesters, and look out for the black helicopters. I've got the documents.
I got the documents. Project Northwoods was the first sign that I knew that the American government was co-opted by the Illuminati global elite.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Frogs are gay.
That's a good impression.
Frogs are gay. Yeah, the government made frogs gay. Yeah. Oh yeah, I was talking about how you kind of brought up the point, Dusty, that oh, he just got kicked out again. I was commenting on how Dusty kind of made the point that Trump does bear some responsibility for his COVID response in the same way that Biden bears some responsibility for like lying America into the Iraq war by voting for it, basically.
Yeah, I think he's guilty of the rhetoric. As far as the response, I mean, I think he listened to Fauci and Birx early on. So you got governors saying that they received a good amount of PPE. I don't like the rhetoric from him. That's all. I just think that it was, I don't know. Again, I go back to what I said earlier when I don't think Trudeau handled this perfectly. I don't think anybody in the world handled this perfectly. I think it gets I think the magnifying glass gets put on Trump because, this happens to be a presidential election year as well. I'm not dismissing that at all. I know, like, obviously millions of people have lost their jobs and livelihoods, and Dusty was mentioning he only got, you got fuck all from a stimulus check, man. That's not cool, right? We got fuck all here too in Canada, and I know the Brits were also complaining about, and they're in lockdown right now, and they're complaining even more, man. I just think that this game of like, let's blame Trump as the worst person ever to handle this thing, I just think that's low hanging fruit for me.
That's true. Yeah, agreed.
I just we can go through and have a whole entire separate podcast on what he did or didn't do wrong, but I just think at the end of the day, I don't think that. And I don't think he handled this brilliantly, but I just don't think that. I don't think that he failed at this either, because then I think you got to put some failure on Fauci and Birx as well, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, you can't put the blame on any one person at all. I mean, it's a variety.
It's a group effort. Like, he had a whole tactical team. He still has a whole COVID team. There's a whole bunch of advisors, a whole medical community, the whole doctorate or Medical Association of United States is probably like 100,000 members strong, right? They're all emailing each other back and forth over the last 8 months, right? So, yeah.
And like, this is since the I think it was the Spanish flu, maybe whatever that one was in 1919. It's like an unprecedented pandemic since that, right? So I mean, no one was as prepared for it as they could have been.
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, I think some of those Asian Pacific countries were a little bit more prepared. Your Taiwans, your Japan, your those areas. But I think they're more used to those kind of
Singapore's.
Yeah, the Singapores. I think
Yeah.
they're more kind of used to those Asian flus, and they're more of a mask wearing culture. I know here in Canada, we've got a university down the street that has a very Asian kind of culture that attends it, and they were wearing masks even before COVID was around, right? So you got that kind of ingrained in their culture as well, which, you know, yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like that's a major aspect of this too, that like the cultural changes from everyone wearing masks out in public all the time. Like, I mean, when you're out in public in regular circumstances, you don't necessarily like talk to everyone you see like they're friends, but I mean, we most of humans communication is through body language and facial expression, and when all you can see is someone's eyes, then it's hard to like form more genuine, like immediately connections with people when you're talking to them. That's it. That's one of the reasons why it's good to like have friends and like do virtual chats like this, because you can still, as long as you still see people in person. I mean, I think another one of the points that I agree with, that I've heard a lot of people make, is that the lockdowns from the pandemic are like making people worse at communicating like in public with people, because they're all like locked. We're all like locked up. Well, not locked up, but we're all like in our homes all the time, and that sort of thing.
yeah. I don't think the lockdowns was the best approach. I think at first I was cool with it just because we didn't know much about the virus, but I think now 8, 9 months later, I think we know a lot more, and I think just a controlled approach is necessary. I think wear masks, social distance, sanitize your hands, don't gather in crowds of more than 10, 20, 50 people. Just stay at home as much as possible. I mean, I think people, for the most part, and I'm just speaking as here in Canada, I've been pretty good citizens. We've been wearing masks now here in my city for 3 months, mask mandated, and people have been following that. 99% of the population, right? So, yeah, just stay the course. I think that's the thing. I wanted to ask you something just to go back to Biden for a second. Because we were talking earlier about like Trump, because I have CNN on the background and it says that he won't concede or whatever. Do you think that, because the way the only I see, the only thing I'm kind of afraid of, and I'm not really afraid of, but the only thing I kind of worry about is that for the next 4 years, since you had Trump, I was looking at the numbers. Trump had 63 million votes back in 2000 and, sorry, 2016, and he got a little bit over 70 million votes now. So he's gained about 10 million votes. Do you think that 70 million Americans are going to consider Biden not a president for the next 4 years due to all this talk about invalid vote fraud and voter suppression and that kind of stuff? The same as the left was basically saying that Trump is not an official president. You know, you had Russiagate investigation. You also had, Ukraine and the impeachment and all that kind of stuff. I worry that nothing gets done. Right? You got the left and the right that has so been polarized with the Trump presidency over the last 4 years that we're now at a point that Biden is won, and you still got 70 million Americans that are not happy with this result because they feel like they was cheated out of it. Because you also had a media that was telling them you have an 8 to 10 point national lead, and then that just evaporated. So polls are kind of bullshit now, even though we were told differently regarding 2016. Do you think that the right is just going to say that he's not my president for the next 4 years?
I'm not sure.
Well, it happened. It
Go ahead.
happened. So yes, there were people. I remember a lot of people saying, "Not my president." It doesn't matter what they say.
Mm-hmm.
They can say it, but it doesn't make it true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends on whether they're crazy enough to actually do something about that.
Yeah.
And I tend to not see people getting that crazy on the left. when it comes to things like that. Um, but it seems like you never know when it comes to the right because they're kind of have a history of
Well, you had
doing
that plot
insane
against
shit.
the Michigan governor not too long ago, that the FBI kind of investigated and stepped in, right? So
What
Yeah,
was
there
that
was a
about?
Bernie Sanders guy, I
that's right.
guess, that did that. He tried to kill some Republicans, I think.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was a while ago. It happened.
Softball game or something? Is that right?
Yeah, it was a softball game. He didn't kill anybody. I think he shot a couple people, but they survived, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's crazy, man. Like it's just that thing is surprising because we usually don't see. Well, we don't see the modern day left doing this. Yeah, if you go back in like 30 and 40 years from now, or more like 50 or 60 years, yes, the left back then would bomb places and things like that. But I don't know, man. I'm just like from hearing all the different thwarted plots, it just gets me worried. Because the only reason these plots are thwarted is because these people aren't lone gunmen. When
Yeah,
you have a very, very small and tight group of people
Mm-hmm.
that have the determination to do something like this, um,
Yeah.
then
Uh,
then that's what gets scary. Because it seems like the larger the group of people, the more easily like their plot gets thwarted.
yeah.
right. Yeah, for
And it's
sure.
usually the lone crazies that actually get to pull off these plans.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I hope we don't have that happen. Unfortunately, I think we might see a pocket of that here and there. I just,
Well,
again,
we've seen it all year, so
yeah.
we've got to assume that something's going to happen. Because you got to remember the guy who was sending shit through the mail. There's that guy, and then to be honest, a lot of the shooters have been Trump supporters. Like, and I'm talking about the shooter that was shooting people in Texas in the Walmart. He killed like 20 people, I think. Um, like a lot of the vast majority of them, like the shooters, have been like Trump or at least heavily right wing.
hmm
That's the thing I fear. Just um, more violence and
Hmm.
more lone nuts committing mass shootings. I'm a bit surprised though, because during this pandemic, there really hasn't been any mass shootings.
Hmm. And
So they
lately, there
really
hasn't
need
been
to.
either, right? You just had a presidential election happen, and I mean, they were boarding up Washington, they were boarding up New York City, getting ready for riots, and I think they're taking down those boards. So for the most part, it's been semi-peaceful so far, right?
Well,
Unless I'm
yeah,
missing
yeah.
something.
I think it's been mostly peaceful. It just seems like the left is more pushed towards violence when there's a large number of them, and riots happen. And the right, it's usually like lone nuts with a gun. Um,
Yeah.
and
mm,
I'm like
yeah.
not
Good point.
sure. Yeah, it seems like in
Yeah,
most
because
of
when
these riots, you don't really hear about people getting killed, other than rioters getting shot at. But yeah, when it comes to the lone gunmen, like their actual objective is to kill people. It
Yeah,
doesn't seem that that's the objective of a riot. They're just lashing out for the most part
yeah, yeah.
and causing property damage for the most part. Or if you're a dumbass and you want to go out and try to oppose like a mob of people by yourself. I'm not going to say you got what's coming to you, but I'm just going to say that's not a smart decision.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Like even if you have a gun, even if you're a Kyle Rittenhouse type guy, the guy's in jail right now. So yeah, it's not really smart to go trying to break up a riot by
Yeah.
yourself.
It's also
Yeah,
not smart to have a 15-year-old with a weapon like that.
yeah,
That's what I
yeah.
would say.
That's for sure.
Yeah,
That
someone whose brain isn't fully
Yeah.
yeah,
The
like
prefrontal
he couldn't
cortex
even
hasn't
like,
fully
he can't even
developed.
join the military yet.
Yeah, and he's
yeah, yeah, for
he
sure.
can't even vote
Yeah,
Yeah,
seriously.
exactly.
or
Yeah,
buy scratch tickets.
yeah,
Yeah, and then I guess there's, what is social media going to fuel more fires? Because I do believe that social media has a huge hand in this, enabling people to do crazy shit.
yep,
Um, like I
definitely.
know we're going to talk about that documentary later, but one of the crazy things that one of the craziest stats
In the social
in
dilemma.
the social dilemma is that Alex Jones was propagated 150 billion times by the algorithm, and
Holy
that
fuck,
is
I forgot that.
more than the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, and any other national publication that you could think of combined.
Wow.
And then we wonder why there's a bunch of like QAnon people and they're actually electing like QAnon people to office now.
Well,
It's like, huh.
that's one thing they kind of commented on in the documentary too. Like, you can find the algorithm will find you the 1,000 people in the entire world who are flat earthers.
Yeah, and I'll convert like normal people to flat earth.
Yeah,
It's like, well, and then, who wants to be in extreme centrism? Is that the thing? No vote? I was like, really? I got why they went that direction. I thought it was pretty funny, though.
yeah,
But well, anyway, we're off topic here. But yeah, I think social media has a pretty big role in fueling the craziness. As one of my friends like quit social media, it's like he just couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah,
okay,
Like,
I'm one of those guys right now.
yeah,
Yeah, I left around March or April once COVID started hit. I just can't. I just feel like it's just there was so much nonsense going on. It wasn't helping me mentally, so it's just good to take a break. So I still have apps on my phone, but I deleted most of them. They're back on there right now. Like I deleted them, sorry, for a few months, but I put them back on there. But I don't. It's just something to like check to make sure because I'm a big music guy, so it's just like I check on to see what artists are up to and that kind of stuff. But that's about it. Then I try to log off as soon as possible. But I did see the Social Dilemma, and I was aware of Tristan Harris's work just because I saw he's been on Rogan before, and has he been on Mixed Metal Arts? I don't remember.
I don't
I
think
don't think so.
Okay. Anyway, I was aware of his work, so I kind of knew that was coming in. I'm also I've read as you know, the Jonathan Haidt and Greg Lukianoff book, and yeah, so yeah,
And he's in the social dilemma.
that's right, yeah. And you know what was awesome is to see him there on like a big Netflix documentary. Like I know he's been on Rogan, and but I feel like Hunter talked about this years ago that he felt that he wanted Jonathan Haidt's ideas. Like he was really trying to work hard. I think Brian was working hard on this too. Like I think that if I'm not mistaken, the only reason that
They got
Haidt
him on
on there,
Rogan.
that's right, is Haidt got on Rogan because of Brian and Hunter's, right? So his the mission to get his work out there is worked. Yeah.
Yeah,
And the funny thing is that one of the most important things about the book is what he talked about in the actual documentary.
Yeah, that's right. Like the
Yeah.
girls and the high school with social shaming, especially after hours, and how yeah, that's
and how that dramatically has increased the suicide rates,
and
right?
suicide rates.
Yeah.
And they showed the charts. Yeah, no.
Yeah, and I have a daughter, and we're I'm banning social media.
Yeah.
It's like she's not going to be able to use it.
You think Jonathan Haidt's advice is good to like basically not allow it until high school?
Uh, I didn't have it in high school, so there's no reason she should need it in high school.
Yeah, the
I
problem
think
is
like,
this becomes like marijuana sometimes, right? Where it's
yeah,
like, oh, don't smoke marijuana, and kids in high school, what are they going to do, right?
I'll
yeah,
wait until she's past like the whole. Because in high school, that's when you give a shit about like. Well, I understand like okay, middle school you have a lot of anxieties about like your appearance and your hormones driving that shit up to 11. But even then, like social media is addictive as fuck, and I would rather my daughter have more cognitive development before social media. So that's why I would probably just push her till 18 and then she could use it. But yeah, I just think it's too dangerous.
It's a big time suck. Like if I've learned
Yeah.
anything over the past 4 years is that social media has really wasted a lot of my time. I could have been
Oh,
doing
yeah.
way I feel like I was on social media so much to catch up on two things. One, Trump and what he's up to, and two, COVID, right? When like I've been
Yeah.
on my phone so much over the past like 6 months, it's unbelievable. And it's because of Trump and COVID. I'm trying to keep up on what everybody's saying, what these thoughts are, because I don't know what the fuck is going on, right? But it's
Mhm.
so addicting that I keep wanting to go back and going back. And then I've also tried to been like, okay, I'm putting my phone down for a few hours. I'm gonna go like help my wife out and maintain my kids for a bit because I don't want this thing to overtake me. But I get where that addiction comes from, especially
Mhm.
when there's like huge world events going on, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I totally identify with that. I used to spend an hour a day just going through Facebook notifications, and now I basically only use Facebook to post stuff like
Hmm.
my YouTube videos, and on Twitter and Instagram I mostly use it for that too. And then though it's only different on Twitter because I I noticed that if I actually, I don't get many notifications in general on there. And I noticed that if I do like follow people who follow me back, then I can gradually get more followers. And if I gradually get more followers, I can gradually get more YouTube subscribers and perhaps eventually get my channel monetized and actually make money from it, which would be awesome. Like, I don't want to become a grifter or some shit like that, but making money from my creative expression would be pretty awesome. Like, I make no money from that right now, basically, other than like a tiny bit of money from Patreon. But see, that's like, I just made a string of excuses to be like on Twitter too much too. But I also made like I made a rule for myself just because I noticed I was checking my phone too often just like to see who sent me a message or something. I made a rule that even if I'm looking at my phone and seeing who messaged me, I only respond to my messages 4 times a day unless it's something time sensitive like responding to you guys before we did the podcast today.
Yeah.
Mhm.
My phone gets in a hierarchy, so I'll be on it. But if my kid's like, "Hey, Dad, can you come?" and my phone, I try to put it away ASAP, and then I'll pay attention to my kids. Eh,
Yeah, for me, it's I check it when I use the bathroom, and I try not to check it at any other time. So, um, like one of my main rules is no phone at the dinner table.
That's a good rule.
So,
yeah, it's a good rule. Yeah.
and then I have to use the phone, but I don't use it for social media. So it's mainly like choosing a podcast or audiobook to listen to. And that's usually how I avoid using social media
Hmm.
by listening to a podcast or a book. That way my mind's occupied on, you know, something a bit more important than that.
Yeah, most of the time I'm using my phone for listening to an audiobook or a podcast too.
Yeah, I'm definitely the same. Podcasts and audiobooks, and then I Twitter all as well, I try not to, but I'm guilty of going on there. Especially lately, I can't I can't avoid it. Yeah, and
Yeah, I've
you know what?
never
It
been a
sucks. It's not a
big
good.
Twitter person.
It's not a good. It's not. It's not a good place to get news. I
No,
think I get better news from podcasts
me too.
and different areas, but I feel like the news changes so much that Twitter is the best place to get the most constant dopamine hit. You know.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I
I
avoid
just
Twitter for
prefer.
news now.
I just prefer getting my news from YouTube, like podcasts that I follows and like political commentary videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do the sin because I don't actually open these. I get notifications from CNN for breaking news, but I don't actually open them. I just check the headlines, and if I see a headline, I'll see if any YouTuber I like has talked about it. But I watch the local news every day, so like the biggest events of the day I'll always know about, and I always listen to the Daily podcast, which is the New York Times podcast, and they cover like the big news story of the day.
Yeah.
But and then they cover like little tidbits at the end of the podcast to tell you what else happened. But yeah, I try not to use Twitter because there's been so many times in the past where like Twitter blows up over something and it ends up being totally false,
Bullshit.
like
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
Covington kid deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And right when that happened, I knew it was bullshit because it was like a clip, and I was like, well, what happened before that? If
yeah,
nobody was questioning what happened before that, why are
yeah,
these people face to face? And I had to go and hunt for this. It took me a while, but I found the full video. And it's like, yeah, well, the kid was just standing there, and the guy approached him. Uh, it's like, and that's just like the problem with Twitter. Like, people post clips, and I don't know if they're making propaganda on purpose or they just don't know what the hell they're looking at. As
yeah. It's probably
uh,
both. It's
Yeah.
probably both, depending on the
yeah,
person.
because the other day someone posted in Mixed Mental Arts a tweet of Glenn Greenwald talking about some events that happened that involved Michael Bolton and some other thing.
Hmm.
And the tweet was like, "Oh, look, he approves of Trump and Michael Bolton's policies." And I listened to the clip, and he's just describing things that happened. And I was like, "There's no approval. He's just telling us what happened. Like he didn't say,
Well,
yes, I approve. Yes, I liked when Trump did that." He's like, no, he's just describing some things. And I was like, and people don't fall for this shit because
they
the
do.
person who posted it fell for that shit. I was like, they're just describing events that happened.
Oh
What
my
do you
god.
mean by approval? And, like, these people are journalists. They typically, from what I understand, and from what I know of, like, the useful idiots, they mostly just tell you what's going on for the main part. Sometimes they'll laugh at things and make
Hmm.
sarcastic remarks, but they're not pundits. They're not, oh yeah, I approve of this.
Yeah.
It's like most of it is like cynical bantering about things that happen. It's not. I've never heard him or any of them approve of a politician, endorse a politician, praise the Democrats or Republicans. It's mostly like, this is what they did. This is what we think about it. They're not like sycophantic. They're just telling you what they think of certain things. It's like,
Mm.
man, like people, and that's the nature of Twitter. Like you make a short 20-second video out of context, you put a caption on it, people share that shit like wildfire, and
Yep.
they don't even know what they're looking at.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Like you see that it's happening like from all directions. It reminds me of I was telling you about how my family member who fucking disowned me over political shit and dumb petty political shit like J.K. Rowling's opinion about trans people. And like he was all day long on social media. His he's getting all of his news from tweets. It's screenshots of tweets. This is how I'm getting my information. Look at this detailed tweet thread. It goes really into this. You don't like go investigate the original clip of someone. You just base all your information off tweets.
Yeah. Oh, I don't want to. I don't know if I want to bring this up. Like, are you good friends with Shane Kennedy or whatever?
Yeah, I know he has some pretty crazy opinions, if that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. I was like, man, it's like you gotta like investigate stuff more, dude. It's not. I don't think it's necessarily a personal problem of these people. It's just these people probably just spend so much time on the social medias that, you know, the social media knows what to give them, and it knows what they're gonna sop up without question.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, I don't blame people for getting it wrong. It's like, yeah, if you're gonna rely on these channels to get your information, then you're being information siloed. And I did this experiment with my wife. I'm like, all right, let's compare Google search results. And we in our phones we put in what is climate change, and we got completely different results for this. And I was like, what the fuck? This is crazy.
Yeah.
It's like none of our results were the same.
Uh-huh.
None of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I truly believe that, yeah, even a Google search can silo people. So that makes me think, like, when I'm searching for Google and I find like these research, like I do like a Google search to debunk somebody, and it usually takes me like 5 seconds to do so. Is it the case where they're not seeing the same search results that I'm seeing?
Uh-huh.
Like, that makes me think, you know, if it's like,
Yeah.
if I'm seeing these results like in 5 seconds and I'm able to easily debunk like your little thing, is it just that you don't see what I'm saying, you know? So I think that could be a big problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And
willful
which is
ignorance.
why I use Wikipedia a lot. Usually nowadays I'll just go to Wikipedia, because at least whoever sees it will see the same exact thing that I see if they were going to research the same thing on Wikipedia. I know some people don't like Wikipedia, but hey, at least everybody sees the same thing when they're doing a search or doing some research on there.
Yeah, that's true.
What I do is I have like 50 people. I have Twitter, obviously, but and I think this is important because talking about silos, I have about like 50 people, but it varies across a wide political landscape. I got a bunch of left people, a bunch of people on the right I listen to, a bunch of liberals I listen to, a bunch of progressives I listen to. And then I kind of just pick and choose and I think I got a pretty good bullshit detector, and sometimes the left has bullshit and sometimes the right has bullshit, and I just kind of go with sometimes the right has good points and sometimes the left has good points, and sometimes, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm open to anybody. I'll listen to anything. The other day I was listening to Virgil Texas and the Chapo Trap House guys talking to Ice Cube about him and talking to the Trump administration. And then I flipped over and I was listening to a Gavin McInnes episode talking about what the Proud Boys are all about. So I go all over the place. And I think it's important for people to not just listen to like CNN only or MSNBC only and just get your information there. I think you have to kind of, these days at least, go to a bunch of different sources, and then whatever you can narrow it down by, if they're all kind of speaking the same kind of truth, then you know that the truth lies somewhere in there. And for me, that's all I care about is what's the truth.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I do the same sort of thing too, and I know that Dusty does too. Like I follow I follow progressive political commentators, and then I often watch like longer podcasts with libertarians and sometimes more right leaning people, and I try to keep more of like a balanced perspective with paying attention to people with different views across the political spectrum too.
Yeah, like I'll listen to John Oliver. My wife will watch me, and she likes John Oliver too. And then I'll listen to Ben Shapiro right after that, and they're like two different worlds.
Yeah,
But the reason you
totally are.
yeah, and my wife will comment it too. She'll be like, "What the fuck? They're just commenting on two different things." I'm like, "Yeah," but
Yeah.
this is what you have. I feel like it's important to do that because, yeah, that's how you kind of figure out where reality is at, you know. And I think that they're both full of shit, but they're both kind of right sometimes too.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of videos that I like are videos that actually present the other side and then critique it. So
Yep.
you at least see what they're saying in their own words, not out of context. Because there are some people that will show like the other side out of context.
Yes.
You do have to be aware of that. But there are some people who are generally honest about that and trying to do those types of critiques. I guess steel manning your opponent, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I don't know. I think about Ben Shapiro, and it's like, yeah, I've watched a few. I don't watch him a whole bunch, but I will watch him. Usually, when other people comment on him, I'll go ahead and check out what he's saying. But I don't have him like in a daily diet of Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
I do subscribe to him on my podcast feed, but I go through and I read what he's talking about that day. And if it's something that intrigues me, I'll listen. If it's something that I don't, then I don't.
Yeah. He used to have some Ruben in there, but he's just gone crazy.
Yeah, I'll still listen to Ruben though. I haven't dismissed him just yet. I know that he's gone so far right, but at the same time, I don't know. And I know I'm probably of a small minority. I don't have time to just dismiss everybody all the time. I think that, and I do
like
this.
The way you phrase that. That's a good way to phrase that. I don't have time to dismiss everyone all the time, because a lot of people see it as the opposite. I don't have time to entertain these kind of views.
Yeah, like Jake Tapper is right in front of me right now. I'm watching CNN, but I listened to Ben Shapiro 2 days ago, right? So I mean, I don't know. I listen to Fox News too. I've listened to Tucker Carlson. I've listened to Laura Ingraham. I listen to all these people. I don't dismiss any of these people, and yeah, I know that's like not in a popular opinion at all, but I listen to left people too. So
yeah,
I think I'm more apt to read like a right winger's book than I am to listen to their daily ramblings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've read both. I've read Tanahashi Coates and I've read Candace Owens. So I mean,
hate Ta-Nehisi Coates.
But you could say you hate both. You hate both of them, right?
I do hate both
exactly,
of them, actually.
right? But I think in order to understand these people, you got to read the material. If I'm just saying I hate Candace Owens, but I don't know what she's all about, I feel like that's not, you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm just, yeah.
Well, I have her book. I think after I read another fiction book, I'm going to check hers out because I have it.
Yeah, I read it. It's
you said?
I read it.
What was that?
You say you could allow me to read it too?
Yeah, I'll upload it for you.
Sweet.
I gotta, because I only have 1 gig in my Google Drive, so I gotta swap stuff out and stuff.
Cool.
But yeah, I'll put it up there so you can grab it.
Yeah.
I was telling you the other day, Dusty. I listen to Ruben every once in a while. Most of the time I'm still subscribed to him and I see his feed, and most of the time I don't watch his videos, but sometimes I do. Like I was telling you, I watched his interview with Joe Jorgensen, the Libertarian Party candidate.
Yep.
And That was interesting. It was funny because he was she asked him at the end, "Hey, did I convince you? Did I convince you to vote for me?" And he said, "Ha! I see what you did there. Well, I voted for the Libertarian Party in 2016, but I think this year, in 2020, Trump's just the only one. He's the only one who's going to fight the SJWs and the radical left,
He said that to her?
Yeah, something like that.
Man, I bet she's never going to want to go on that podcast ever again.
Yeah.
See, that's why I don't like Ruben, because I'm over the culture war bullshit.
Yeah.
So I kind of find the culture war stuff not like I used to find it fascinating, but I'm finding that it has really gained no purchase. It has no further purchase in American society. Like, I had been concerned, but I'm like, none of the shit that they're warning us about is coming to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not anything for me to really worry about. And that's like Dave Rubin's whole shtick, right? He's voting for Trump because he wants to get at the SJWs.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, you're not concerned about more important policy issues?
Yeah.
And that's why
he could have even made like a libertarian sounding argument for Trump. Like if that was his perspective, that would have made more sense, but he had to go with the fucking culture war shit.
Yeah, so it's like, same thing with Tim Pool. Like, he's all into the culture war shit, and he's likely voted for Trump because of SJWs. Like, I don't think SJWs will ever be a large factor that I ever have to deal with in my life.
I also wonder if like, and Tim Pool and Dave Rubin are perfect examples. I follow both of these guys. I dip in and out. Sometimes I listen to them.
Yeah,
Sometimes I don't.
I watched a Tim Pool video earlier today. I was just trying to keep up on what he was saying.
But I both often wonder if they both have rose to kind of prominence by being these kind of, they don't come out, well, Rubin for the longest time didn't come out as a pro-Trump guy until he actually met Trump. Yeah. And Tim Pool comes across as kind of a more Trump guy, even though he never would come out and say that. He acts like he's not. Do you know what I mean? But they both kind of cashed in. They've increased their followers and they've increased their amount of reach, both by, tapping into that market of being pro-Trump guys. So
well, it was inevitable by just reading their comment sections.
Yeah.
If you look at a Rogan comment section, it's like super centrist. Like, you would be surprised. Like, you don't see like a bunch of hardcore like lefties or hardcore right wingers like dominating his comment section on YouTube. It's mostly people that are like centrist-y type of people. And you go on a Tim Pool's comment section, it's straight up Trumpers. You go to Rubin's comment section, it's like libertarian and Trumpers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what do you expect is going to happen there?
Yeah.
But I try to keep an eye on him. I think, I don't know, Rubin's just a little wacky. I just don't get him anymore. And like I said, like, I'm just not interested in culture war rhetoric anymore, or even like the covering of the culture war. It just doesn't really seem like it's as big as an issue as I thought it would be. Like, like in the beginning, I was like super anti-SJW, and I was like, oh yeah, they're taking over everything. But it's been 4 years, and that hasn't happened. So it's like, maybe I was wrong.
I do think with the Biden presidency, both of these guys are kind of going to have to scrape the bottom of the barrel as far as what kind of material they kind of come up with for the next 4 years. And honestly, I think that's a good thing.
Not really, because their material isn't pro-Trump, it's anti-SJWs.
Yeah.
So all they have to do is get examples of SJWs and talk about it. That's basically all it is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I think there's still going to be those people that consume that type of content.
Yeah.
But Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
like the niche that they built themselves into.
Yeah.
I-
That's how I got like a little bit more interested in politics at first with like culture war shit with Sargon of Akkad and people like that. But then after a while I was like, this is just boring, man. Like every day witch hunts for like, oh, this newest crazy chick with purple hair said that all women are men. Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
honest-
and then it gets to such the bottom of the barrel. They start like pulling up tweets to like SJWs that have like less than 1,000 followers who are like
Yeah.
not relevant to society.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, whatever. The shit's not affecting me in real life at all, so I don't give a shit about it.
Yeah. No, I can see how you could be bored of that. To be quite honest, I'm kind of bored with that too. I know this has been a great conversation, but I'm kind of bored with politics in general. My mind has been nothing but 4 years of just trying to keep up with what's been going on with culture and politics, right? So
It almost feels like this Biden era may give us some type of fucking break from it.
And you know what? That's exactly where I was going to say, and that's where I was going. Is I kind of look forward to the next 4 years of just exhaling and being like, I don't have to worry about this, even though because I see Biden as kind of in a lame duck situation. I think the Senate, the House, and the judicial branch have all kind of. He doesn't really. There's very little power left of what he can actually do, and I'm fine with that. I mean, a stalemate for the next 4 years. If I'm just kind of not as engulfed in politics and concentrating more on personal things in my life, family and job, and becoming a rock star or whatever, or becoming the best baseball player ever. These things are, more beneficial to me. So I think it's going to, at Biden presidency I'm okay with that. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Don't have to worry about tweets. The good thing about Biden was we know his mind isn't addled by social media.
Yeah, exactly.
He just doesn't fucking use it.
Yeah.
So I think he doesn't have this penchant to perform on social media like Trump did. I think he was totally like, I wonder what type of what Trump's feed looked like, and I'm guessing it was like full of fucking crazy conspiracy shit.
Yeah.
Like it had to be. Like there's no way that he got to the way he was tweeting like 2 a.m. about some dumb shit if he wasn't being fed like InfoWars all day from Twitter.
I do wonder what happens with Twitter and him now, though, right? I can see like, I don't know if you guys have noticed.
He's going to be tweeting. He's not going to disappear. He's going to be tweeting.
You don't
well,
think?
Actually, he hasn't tweeted. He hasn't tweeted recently, has he?
Oh, really?
I don't think so. I haven't checked today. But I just like did you guys see the New York Post with them and the Hunter Biden laptop situation and the censorship there?
Yeah.
I just wonder if like, I honestly think that Twitter and it loves that Trump is on their platform because it generates a ton of traffic for them, right? And if they're down to like censoring everything, and Trump is going to pretty much go from this day forward as ignoring this election and saying it was illegitimate and all that kind of stuff. And how much is Twitter going to censor that is kind of what I'm on the sidelines wondering. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. The only thing I know is that Twitter, the reason why you see these social medias censoring things is because in the back of their minds, they know they've caused significant damage to American society.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So they're trying to do damage control on the damage that they caused, which is to censor things.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work. What they need to do is change their business model. Censoring things is not going to help them. Like we all saw what happened when they tried to censor the story. It just got bigger.
It's always the Streisand effect.
Yeah, that's right.
Like everything, anytime it gets bigger. Like I remember they tried this on Facebook. They censored those wacky ass COVID doctors. One of which said that, I think what was it that she said? Well, it was a bunch of wacky ass COVID doctors, and one of the doctors, I think, said something that she cured demons or some shit, or some weird shit like that. But I remember they tried to censor that, and the story just got super huge. Like, I don't think I would have, because the first time I found out about the story is somebody talking about how it was censored.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, there was
That's always how I first hear about these things.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Same with that documentary about COVID. There was a documentary early on. I forget what it was called.
Oh, the one by the Epic Times.
Was it by them? I forget. Anyway, it got censored quickly early on. I thought it was by some girl, some female doctor or something. But anyway, it got censored really quick. And the only reason I heard about it is because it got taken off the. Same with those guys from California, those Dr. Erickson or whatever. Those guys, they got taken off really quick. And the only reason I heard of that, well, I saw the video, but it really blew up, and I think a majority of people investigated it once it got taken off YouTube.
Mm-hmm. It's like how I did way more followers after he got banned from everywhere.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. I think if things go how they're going, I still think we're screwed. I think there's a big plus that Biden doesn't use social media. I think that's a huge plus.
That's a really good point. It's probably way better for the country and the world that he probably just likes to spend his spare time listening to records or something like that.
Like vinyl records.
Yeah.
He has like a gramophone in the Oval Office.
Wait.
Like
I have records. We can't start making fun of people that have records.
Well, I got records too, but he's probably listening to like records from like the 1930s and 40s. You know, people like the music that people would be doing to Charleston too.
Yeah,
like that's what he's listening to.
I can just picture him listening to that.
Well, that's what he said. Like, the record. Listen to records.
Leave the record player on at night.
It is a step in the.
I think
it's a step in the right direction for you guys.
Yeah,
because the rhetoric and the temperature will cool off with the Biden presidency, if anything, for the next 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one thing I noticed about at least the politicians who are on social media, seems like the ones who use it the most are the most divisive.
Yep.
Like AOC is tweeting all the damn time, and I was like, God, shut the fuck up and do some governing and shit. Like, you don't need to be on Twitter like 24/7. I think that's the problem. It's like, I don't know. It affects people differently. Like my friend, he got anxiety and depression, and he just had to stop going on there.
Yeah.
And a lot of it had to do with him seeing like close friends and relatives and their stupid political opinions.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. For sure, man.
Yeah. Some people can't handle that. Some people are just like, well, whatever, you know.
It's not what it was. It was not what it used to be. Like I don't go on Facebook anymore, and I mentioned earlier that I'm kind of dwindled my way off social media. But social media for me, you know, in the ICQ, Facebook, early MySpace days, it was different tone then. It was like, hey, look at my baby's picture, and check out my band, and look at this awesome art that I did, and then it became like abortion rights or like it's just like crazy shit, and it's like, wait, I don't want to see this. I want to see like what my buddy is carpentry he's been doing. I want to see all this stuff. I don't want to see, you know, Trump whatever. I just, you know, and now it's all about that now. And I think that like Tristan Harris was saying in the Social Dilemma, like these algorithms they're really good at getting us to keep us coming back. It's the outrage, right? It's that dopamine hit of like, fuck, what did Trump say next? I gotta fucking go on there and like, fuck, he said that again? God damn it, I gotta comment, I gotta retweet that. And how many retweets did I get after that? How many likes did I get?
Exactly. Fuck. Yeah.
And it's just ongoing, and somebody shoot me already, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I never understood, like, everybody knows, at least, from my era is you never really discuss politics and religion and shit in public. And I don't do that on Facebook at all.
No.
Like, if you were to follow my newsfeed outside of anything else, all I do is shit post non-political memes
Right.
and video game shit and nerd shit. That's what I post. That's like my public face on Facebook. I don't post. I didn't post. I think I did post one thing about the election, and it was like some corny kids rap video telling people to vote.
Yeah.
That's what I posted. That's about as political as I got.
Yeah.
But I don't discuss any of that shit on my news feed. Like, why do I need to subject everybody on my friends list to my stupid political opinions?
Yeah.
Like, I'll put those opinions in places where those things are discussed. I don't need to fuck up my friends and family in this polarized world by giving them my really fucked up opinions on things.
Right.
so I just don't. And the problem is so many people do this, and it's
fuck.
like, if I were to scroll on my newsfeed for 10 seconds, someone's going to say some shit about Trump, or someone's going to be like, fuck the libtards or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, why do you guys feel the need to do this? I guess I think the deal is that you look at these posts and there's a lot of likes. There's a lot of hearts. So there's that endorphin rush for being super edgy online. And for a normal person, being super edgy is giving out your political opinion.
Yeah.
And then people hitting likes on it. I was like, I don't want to get into that. Not in my personal life.
Yeah.
No, I do the same. I don't post anything. I won't get into those arguments. Well, just because I feel like the forum of a Facebook or Twitter isn't the appropriate place to get into some of these long, complicated discussions that are multi-layered, and there's different avenues you can go down. But yeah, I don't get the political friends and family that, because you're just, most of the times it's just retweeting other people's bullshit. And the other thing is you don't know what you're talking about. You're not a epidemiologist when it comes to COVID. You're not a political scientist when it comes to, foreign policy or that,
or
economics.
Even knowing how basic government functions.
Yeah.
I
some people don't
feel
know.
like I pay attention as much as I can. I don't know what the fuck is going on. You know what I mean? So,
Well, why do you think all these politicians? Why do you think the majority of them are lawyers? It's because it's all complicated bureaucratic bullshit that stems from law. That's why so many of them are lawyers.
Yep.
That's why it kind of takes a lawyer to understand how government works. We see this. Like, we look at Trump, he has like zero understanding of how government works. And then you throw someone in a Biden, and we kind of like, okay, the guy was a constitutional lawyer. He should be okay. He knows that you can't say, oh, I'm going to cut the funding for this, because Biden knows that he doesn't control funding at all.
Yeah.
so at least he's not going to make him look stupid when it comes to government function. But when you're the president and you're saying these weird and inaccurate things, especially about the government that you're the head of, you're also informing your followers, and they're going to think the same thing too, and they're going to be just as ignorant when they're retweeting and spouting this shit on the internet, and then me face palming when I see it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So a Biden presidency, if anything, hopefully will kind of cut some of this in half and get rid of. I think we're still going to go through, like, unfortunately, a George Floyd incident again, or something like that.
That's not stopping anytime soon.
No, exactly. But I think the media is, you know what I mean? And I just think that hopefully now, with Trump not at the helm, right, and a Biden presidency, hopefully that it just becomes more of like not so much of a divisive thing. And since there's so much rhetoric with Trump that it doesn't, there's more of like a caring and I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I just feel like it would be a better approach. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel like Trump approaches everything as in he's not he's divisive, so he will basically present himself as and his party as one side and the other. I don't think Biden has done that and is doing that. I know during the debate he did like make some quirks and some little clips about things like I think what was it? Trump asked him like, "You guys didn't get anything done," and it's like, "Well, we had a Republican Congress. Like, what do you expect?" Like, it's true. Like, it's objectively true, and they're very obstructionist.
Yeah.
I just hope it's like the division is detrimental because there's no bipartisan support for anything. Like everything becomes a partisan battle, even though it should be pretty much bipartisan.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if Biden cures that or if it just continues with status quo.
No, he's not going to cure it because I don't think the government has a whole lot to do with the bipartisan. I don't think the government has the power that social media does. Like he could do what he can, but he's not gonna beat the supercomputers being pointed at our brain by Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, he can because he doesn't use social media, but
he has the social media and the media. I would say the media, the mainstream media, at least CNN and MSNBC, they're predominantly left. So he has that in his favor to kind of push a message forward. Where I feel like a lot of these places, CNN especially, have just been anti-Trump for the last 4 years, which doesn't do you guys as citizens any good.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it sucks that the only time he gets praise is when he's bombing somebody. That just doesn't make fucking sense. Like okay, the left is going to praise Trump when he shoots missiles at Syria, but they're not like thinking about anything else. Like, wow, that's just horrible. It's horrible what they'll praise him on, but he does some type of criminal justice thing. It just kind of gets glossed over. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I guess I'm a little optimistic, but I don't think he's going to cure like the division. I think that the division predates Trump and it predates Biden, and I don't think they caused either of those. I believe that it's the media environment that has pretty much caused that. It's the whole business model of the media environment that we consume, which is why I try to stick to local news because they don't have opinions on shit. They just deliver information to me. I don't have to hear about their opinion about Trump or anything of that nature. They just tell me what's going on, and that's that.
Yeah.
No, I do the same. I pay attention to my local news just because I think that's way more important. I pay way more. I try to pay more attention to my local elections than I do federal elections because I feel like they're. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't watch CNN. I pass by a TV at work that has CNN on, and maybe I'll sit there for 2 minutes to see what they're talking about, and then they get into their predictable, like super liberal takes on things, and then I just walk away.
Yeah. We only have the option of CNN here, or we have CBC, which is pretty much Canada's version of CNN.
So
Like
you
we're
guys don't get Fox News in Canada?
Nope, I can't get. The only way I can get Tucker Carlson if I want to watch him is like clips on YouTube, or I can do it illegally or whatever. But we don't get. I don't get Fox. I get a Fox feed, which is usually sports oriented and just has that kind of content. But no, I don't see Laura Ingraham. I don't see Tucker Carlson. I don't see Mark Lavin or whatever his name is. I don't see any of these. That feed doesn't come up to us. Well, I'm sure it does, but you have to pay a premium subscription to get it or whatever.
So you guys get CNN for free?
Yep, it's part of our cable package.
Oh, okay. So it's part of basic cable, but you don't get Fox and basic cable. Okay.
No, you would have to pay a premium for it. And I like I said, I do get a Fox channel, but it doesn't include any of the Fox News stuff. It's just like a Fox Sports.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't watch any cable news actually.
I don't either.
Me neither. The only reason I have seen it on in the background is just because, like, obviously there's been a lot happening lately, so I want to see if anything kind of changes. But yeah.
Yeah, I kind of retired the cable news networks.
Oh yeah, for sure, and rightly so, man. They're both garbage. CNN, Fox News.
Yeah, they're pretty bad. Like the only time I ever watch them is for breaking news, and I mean like real breaking news because there's constantly a breaking news banner on CNN, and most of it is banal bullshit. And when I'm talking about breaking news, I'm talking about like a shooter or something of that nature. That's when I'll switch to CNN. But that's it. Like if it's a shooter, if there's like somebody's just fired off some missiles somewhere or something of that nature, I'll switch to it. But I won't sit there and watch it if there's nothing extremely significant going on.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
This guy just commented and said this, and I think it's a really good point. Ever consider that we could have won with a better candidate? I don't know which party he's talking about, but I think both candidates were terrible, so that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Trump, well, I thought it would have been a good idea if they primaried somebody against Trump.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome. The only problem is like 30% of the Republicans are hardcore Trumpers.
Yeah.
So they probably would have gotten pissed off and lost like Senate elections and stuff like that. Like a lot, you see, I guess hasn't been any like Republican coming out and well, there has. I know Chris Christie came out and kind of said, "Hey, if you're going to say that there's fraud, we need some evidence that there's been some fraud. You can't just make these claims." I know Santorum came out with saying similar things, but I think Mitch McConnell is like no comment. Lindsey Graham has actually said that he supported the president on what he was saying. So I don't know, man. Politics sucks because a lot of the decisions people, or at least politicians, make are based off of, will I disenfranchise, or will my voters hate what I'm saying, or am I going to be honest about what I really think?
Yeah.
But yeah.
They usually choose like the first option of avoiding disenfranchising their supporters.
And the funny thing is that Trump did that less, but then he would change his mind after certain people got to him. Like I remember one of the big ones was like, "Yeah, we'll think about." I think there was like a school shooting or something, and he was thinking about, yeah, maybe background checks is a good idea, and then I guess the NRA got to him and was like, "Oh no background checks." So, and a lot of books I've read basically many of them have stated that he changes his mind based off of the last person he's talked to. Like he doesn't really have any like core principles, like which a lot of the White House staff, like their job was making sure certain people didn't talk to him to change his mind.
Yeah, I remember that from I think that was Bob Woodward's first book on Trump called Fear, wasn't it? That he was talking about
Yeah,
what's happening.
yeah, and Fear. I know in the John Bolton book, he's talked about that a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, even, oh man, John Bolton is such a war criminal. It's not even
Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
Like, I can't believe with how much confidence he speaks about some of the things he talks about in this book.
yeah.
It's like he he says he has no responsibility outside of regime. Like, I don't know. He just needs to be punched in the face by somebody. It's disgusting. Like, he doesn't bear any responsibility whatsoever from a failed regime change. Like, he's like, I think he was talking about. The thing is in his book, he's constantly wanting to overthrow these fucking governments. And I was like, dude, did you not learn anything about all of the governments that we've overthrown have become fucking disasters?
Hmm.
And he's like, because in the book, he's like, oh yeah, now we have to deal with ISIS because Obama failed to deal with them. It's like, well, how do you think ISIS fucking happened, you dumbass?
Sounds
Like,
like
do
Bush
you,
failed too.
it's like, fuck, man. It's like, and then he doesn't take responsibility for anything that happens after the point that the regime has changed. Like,
Yeah.
oh no, that's not my responsibility. Blah 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 blah. It's like, yeah, it is, fucker. Like, you can't say that you have no responsibility for that.
Yeah.
That's so stupid. And then he, like, I'm in the section of the book where he wants to overthrow. He wants to do regime change on Iran. Like, imagine if fucking ISIS moved in there and started taking control of that country.
That would be good.
Yeah, because I think he's like argued about, like, his argument about the Iraq war is like, oh yeah, we should have just left like right after we toppled Saddam. He's like, oh, I'm not in the business of nation building. It's like, well,
Yeah, you are.
fucker, what do you think happens like when you just kill the leadership and nope out? You know,
Yeah.
that's what happened with ISIS. You think the same? You think what do you think's going to happen if you did that to Iran? Um, it's just the terrorists are going to come in and take over the government. Like, that's what's going to happen. Like, these societies don't have stable neighbors. Like, I'm trying to imagine what would happen if, like, somebody bombed like the White House. Um, I'm not thinking like terrorists from Canada are going to start flowing in here and trying to take over like the government. Like, but I can think of something like that happening in the Middle East where
Yeah.
you have these.
Not Canadians though.
No, well, some of them are, because I know some Canadians went to fight for ISIS, if I'm not
Oh, I didn't
mistaken.
know that.
They didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, okay, so if you're ever interested, the New York Times, I think, did like a 4 or 5 part podcast about the people who join ISIS who are like relatively well off from first world countries, and they did a profile on one of these people, and they were from Canada.
Oh, okay.
They got radical. See, you know, it's also social media's fault. Do you know how much they contributed to the formation of ISIS?
Probably a lot.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, quite a bit. Like, I'm pretty sure their algorithms, you know, they're showing these young impressionable folks like crazy ISIS stuff, and then, you know, they get dug into it like people do with Alex Jones here.
Hmm.
I wouldn't doubt that they had a pretty big hand in recruiting like normal people into joining ISIS. It's like, that's crazy, man.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's I don't think. Oh, we'll have to see, man. I'm hoping things will calm down. It's we'll have to kind of take the temperature like a year from now, as I think the first few months are going to be raw. As long as Trump is belligerent about his departure, we're probably going to see some type of element, act out in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
If he
we'll
can,
see.
I think
It also depends
yeah.
on the Republican Party as well. As I'm sitting here and, like, as I said, garbage CNN is on in the background here. But both Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz have come out tonight saying that they don't want Trump to concede just yet and for him to fight this out in the courts. So, man, I worry about this like dragging on so long that it's not over yet. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not
Yeah.
just Trump. If you get Republican senators on board as well, this is a whole different ball game. And I don't know. Like, I don't understand why. If the evidence comes out, I'm sure that it will be a peaceful transition of power. I just, yeah, I don't know. I worry.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be a rough few months.
Yeah, it is. I think it is. And there's going to be a lot of conspiracy theories, I think, thrown around, both on, more on the right, more on the right, I would think, at this point than the left. And the reason being is obviously the right lost. Well, depending on how you look on it, they lost. And they're going to do everything to kind of, build up their base or momentum to kind of see if they can fight back, or I don't know, whatever. I just think that, yeah, there's going to be a lot of bullshit for the next 2 months. I'm thinking about going on vacation, and then you guys text me if anything happens.
Well, I will say, like, there were some conspiracy theories with the 2016 election,
Yeah,
about Russia and whatnot. Like, I never bought into that one. But people on the right are using those conspiracy theories as justification for their own.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think they're going to continue. And I know Twitter's trying to censor shit now, but it's kind of too late. It's too late. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, man.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Hopefully everything will be okay. I mean, I kind of think it will, but I don't know. I've gotten surprised several times this year, to say the least.
Yeah. Well, so far it's looking okay. I mean, I know that the right is complaining about Biden's and all these crowd gatherings, and the COVID thing obviously gets brought up, but I just at least they're not like burning down buildings and throwing Molotov cocktails at each other. And, you know what I mean? Like, I so far so good. I think it is going to be a kind of, not a rough next 2 months. I think it's just going to be, I don't know. It's going to be interesting, if anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why they're complaining. Like, at all the gatherings, like, the vast majority of people are masked up. And they're outside.
Yeah.
I guess the only reason they're complaining is because the left complained about Trump's rallies.
Yeah.
And I guess there's a little bit justification there. I saw people wearing masks at Trump's his rallies, but not
less.
Far less.
Yeah. I just call hypocrisy on both sides on that one. I think this game of, oh, look, there's a big crowd for Biden. Oh, look, there's a big crowd for Trump. I think that's like, I don't know. Oh, there's a big crowd for BLM. Oh, there's a big crowd for what football game was in. Anyway, there was a picture going viral with a football game yesterday where everybody was on the field. I think Notre Dame, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, I just don't do that obviously during a pandemic, but this game of like, oh, look at him doing that, oh, look at them doing that, I just think it's kind of silly.
The whataboutism.
Yeah, the whataboutism. Thank you.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, it's like kindergarten logic,
Yeah, it really is.
That's probably what my daughter would say. You guys are adults.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm starting
be
to
fucking
see
adults.
that all the time with like grown adults being
Yeah.
like, he's mean. No, but he's mean. I'm like, what? He disagrees with me, therefore he's bad. What? Why? Because those opinions are bad. They're dangerous. Yeah, but they're retards. Oh, okay. That's
Yeah, it's tough, man.
yeah.
It's tough. It's like tough too, just seeing people that you thought were reasonable, and then you lapse in judgment and start looking more on the your news feed, and you find out that they believe in 5G conspiracies and that they're anti-maskers. You're like, fuck, man, I didn't know that you're that crazy.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
funny,
you
like
just
people
lost a little respect there.
a few times, like
And I'll
within
say
the
this
past
again:
year.
this has been a person that has appeared on the MMA podcast. I'm not going to say who it was,
Oh wow. Okay.
but I was like, man, you just lost some respect for me there, buddy.
Like a few times over the past year, like people I haven't heard from in a long time, like people who used to be really good friends or people who are family members who I just haven't heard from in a while. They've like sent me messages with videos about these random people on YouTube saying, you know, they're trying to control us. This COVID's a conspiracy, man. They're covering up what's really going on.
Yeah, it's just, I almost think that because I took a logic class in college, and these ideas need to be introduced at a much earlier age.
Yeah, they do.
It's like I didn't learn logic and rhetoric. I had to, and it was an elective class. It wasn't a requirement in my education when I was in college. Kind of makes you think maybe we need to introduce these types of classes much earlier, or at least think about it more.
Yeah, I totally agree. Agree. Like critical thinking classes, they should be in like elementary school and throughout high school.
Yeah, it sucks, but then again, you know, like the supercomputer pointed at her brain. It's kind of hard to deal with that.
That's true. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're getting lazier now that, you know, technology, and everybody has basically a supercomputer in their pocket.
So it's going to be like we're going to turn into all the people from Wall-E, or
yeah, hopefully not.
Float around on our fat chairs, have the proportions of an infant.
Yeah,
and
or even worse,
either.
That movie Idiocracy. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, we did a chat on that.
Yeah, it's gonna turn in.
Yeah, I tried to compare President Trump to Camacho, but Camacho's actually a better president because he listens to reason.
Yeah. Wait, you mean the plants can grow with water?
I don't know. I don't think people are getting stupider. They're just being more manipulated. I don't know. It's just we're losing grasp on what is true. It's harder to ferret out what is true.
Well, it's like it's like how you were saying earlier, and they showed this in that documentary, The Social Dilemma, that two people can look up the exact same thing, like climate change, and it'll give you completely different answers.
Yeah. It's like the dress. Do you guys remember the dress? Remember that meme that was going around like a year or two ago, where people would see it as gold or purple depending on whatever. Some people see it as gold. Some people see it as purple, depending on or it's the two movie. Scott Adams talks about this movie theater theory, where it's like people are watching a movie, but they see two different kind of outcomes.
Well, it's even more. It's like it's not two. It's everybody has their own movie.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that. I think we're seeing the transition from legacy media like CNN and Fox to like independent media. But as we kind of go through this transition, because I don't know, mainstream media has been pretty off on a lot of things lately. And I think a lot of people's trust in mainstream media has kind of gone down the tubes. And I think that uninformed citizens, because we're talking about stupid people, right? I think that just uninformed citizens doesn't help your society at all. Do you know what I mean? I think informed citizens help your society all with critical thinking, reason, logic, how you even educate your children, on various different topics. I think all of these things are important, but if the main narrative that's been driven by a media that's just gotten worse and worse and worse and worse all these years, I don't think. Well, I hope it gets better. Hopefully, people will step back and look at this as something that we have to obviously revamp, or maybe they'll just double down and we'll continue on with who knows. I just kind of went off there. I'm sorry.
I think people are still going to be crazy online.
Yeah, I don't think that
Biden's gonna
stops
change
either.
that. Yeah, it's like maybe it's going to be. We won't have anybody incited by Biden to do something crazy. I know
Yeah,
that
probably.
probably won't be the case, but there are still going to be crazy people online.
Oh yeah, for sure. And even if they're censored, they're gonna go off to like a parlor or a BitChute or something kind of different and be crazy over there. Do you know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
like Alex Jones has been eliminated off YouTube and Twitter and all that kind of shit. Yet he still shows up at Joe Rogan's podcast, who's sponsored on Spotify, like 6 months later, right? So
Yeah.
these people are taken off platforms, but they just move over to other platforms and get crazy over there.
Hmm.
Yeah, or they create their own because
Or
it's
they create
not
their own,
like
yeah.
yeah, like Infowars has their website.
Hmm.
So far, they have not been. I don't know if they've been affected there. I know there are some people that can't even get a website.
Or they start a podcast. Like Megyn Kelly was canceled, and she's starting her own podcast and going that route now. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, but there are people that can't even make money. I think, and hey, you can think what you want about it, but there are like I think there was a. Okay, you guys remember the Vice documentary of Charlottesville? And they
I
covered
think
like
so.
this one skinhead dude. Um, they followed up with him like a couple years later, and the guy, like, all the payment processors had banned him, so he
Yeah.
couldn't even get donations for anything
Yeah. Same with Laura
because,
Loomer. This happened
Yeah.
to Laura Loomer, where she lost her credibility with, I forget what banking institution it was, but she was recently on a Michael Malice podcast, and she was talking about how it was like MasterCard or something like that won't even allow her to have a credit card because,
Wow.
yeah. So I I don't know much about Laura Loomer, other than she's a controversial figure, and I think she was running in Florida in some kind of Senate or some kind of race, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. Somebody fact check me on that.
Yeah. I know about as much about her as you do.
Yeah. But
yeah, I
again,
don't know
like
much
for her to
either.
be censored to a point where a banking institution is now limiting you know what I mean? I think that's just I don't know. That's
I think they did that with Alex Jones too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think
possibly,
so. Yeah.
possibly.
Yeah, like they won't like if you try to process a payment from your website, like they won't let you. So yeah, that's I guess a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. Maybe that will get better with Biden as president too, because there won't be people calling for censorship as much.
Hmm.
I don't know about
You think there will still be a
that.
lot of right wingers calling for censoring Biden a lot or something like that?
Well, usually the party that has and this is weird, usually the party that's out of power is the one that calls for censorship.
That's true. Yeah.
So that's why you saw a shitload of calls for censorship from the left these past 4 years. You're probably going to see some of that from the right these next 4 years.
Yeah. Hey
Maybe
Dusty, what?
not since the Senate is split and the House is split. But if for some reason the Democrats got full control, you would definitely see some calls there.
Hey Dusty, what's your take on the critical race theory? I know Trump banned it, but I just saw on CNN that Biden is going to reinstate it.
Well, I don't even know what the fuck the tenets of critical race theory are.
They're like
And
SJW religion, basically.
well,
I don't know much
about
about it to be. I don't know much about it to be honest. That's why I'm asking.
Because I'll tell you this. I sat in on, because my wife is working from home, and they've done, I guess, how do you call it? Diversity training. Is that what they're talking about? Is that what they're opposing?
I think it's linked to like Ibram X. Kendi and Robin DiAngelo-esque kind of white fragility literature, if I'm not mistaken.
I haven't. Okay, so I sat in on her diversity training classes, and there was nothing about saying that all white people are racist or any of that bullshit that I would totally oppose. Like,
this is being taught in universities, though. Like I told you about my
you told me that. Yeah,
my sociology class, aka social justice indoctrination class. Like stereotype of critical race theory. Like black people can't be racist, even though I thought
is that what they taught you in that class?
Yeah.
Is that what they said? Wow.
Yeah, like even though. Like one of my fellow students who
no black people opposed that notion in your class.
There was a black woman in our class who said, "Well, I have a friend who's an Asian woman, and her mother owns this Asian business, and she won't and she knows someone who works for her." She's a black person who won't hire white people because they're not good enough workers in comparison to black people and Asian people. And my teacher was like, "Well, yeah, but that's basically not as bad as racism can get from white people. So that means that black people can't be racist." And then there was like every other stereotype under the book that's in all that like white fragility and like Ta-Nehisi Coates stuff. Like remember in that white fragility book, I told you about how there's one part where someone is asking Robin DiAngelo, how do I bring up racism to my friends when they're being racist? And her response was basically, "You're racist for thinking that because it means you're not acknowledging your own racism."
Well, I don't know really what to say because I don't know what's being classified as critical race theory.
Yeah.
It's a very specific ideology that has intellectual roots. Like you've heard James Lindsay talk about it. Like when we did,
I have, but I haven't.
That's one of the reasons he voted for Trump. I think is because he was
Trump. Wow,
yeah, dude. He loudly proclaimed that on Twitter. Is that one of the main reasons? Is because he felt that Trump was one of the only guys that was kind of standing and saying no to this wokeism kind of ideology or whatever, right? So,
well, it's kind of weird because fucking. Here's what I think. If you are a proponent of free speech, you shouldn't be advocating for the banning of speech. And I will wholeheartedly oppose James Lindsay for that. Like, I don't like it either, but I don't think you should have the government step in to fucking shut down speech, and that's basically what's happening.
That's good.
Like, yeah, you could say we don't want this critical race theory in our government functions. That's fine, but you can't institute that into private entities. Like,
but that's what I'm saying is Biden is going to put critical race theory back on the table once he takes office. That's what it sounds like according to CNN here.
Well, I'm saying my wife works in the public sector. They had diversity training. I sat in on it to observe it. So it was like I sat in for their meetings for like 2 hours. And it wasn't a much ado about nothing. I was like expecting like this crazy like bullshit,
Yeah.
but all it was is like it was just everybody talking to each other about their life experience. And the principal was just like, yes, you know, some people are different cultures. Like they weren't singling out any races or anything at all. They were just saying, you got to be cognizant that people operate differently. People have cultural differences, and you have to be aware of that. And there was no like white people hatred, black people can't be racist. There was none of that shit. So I'm thinking, where is this critical race theory? Because I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
My
No,
wife works in the public sector, and I was kind of expecting it because he was rambling about it. I was like, okay, let me see where this critical race theory, and I sat in on it. I was like, okay, well, yeah, diversity training sucks. I don't know. I'm supposed to, like, from what I've heard, people say, oh, it doesn't work. Yeah, it might not work, whatever. But from what I was actually experienced, it wasn't anything in any way describes like the campus crazy bullshit or what Andrew has described here. It was like nothing like that. It was like the most banal thing that I've ever seen. I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of obvious to me. Of course, people from different cultures act differently and have different values. Yeah, obviously. Like it was no. I was expecting some like crazy SJW shit, but there wasn't really any there. So I was like, that was fine. Like I know it's anecdotal, but I haven't seen that shit from Amazon, who's supposed to be woke as fuck, and I haven't seen it from the public sector, which supposedly has this critical race theory going on. And this is this is what you hear right wingers say, like, oh, the teachers, they're indoctrinating our kids with critical race theory. I didn't see it there at all. It was just some, let's share about our cultural experience for 2 hours.
It probably depends on the institution that you're talking about, like the particular institution and the particular teacher and administrators and the way they choose to do that, I bet, because it wouldn't surprise me if based on the way people choose to implement that, it can vary widely from like what you described to what my experience has been.
Yeah, certainly, possibly. I can't say that I experienced it personally based off of my observation, but the problem with that is I think her school has a lot of African American teachers, and I'm pretty sure they're probably. I think you'll probably hear that more in a majority white staff than you would in a majority black staff.
That's what I was just thinking. I bet white people are way more woke than black people in general.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, like I think if they started peddling that nonsense, some of the black people would speak up.
Yeah,
They were like, hell no! Like my grandma was racist against the Mexicans across the street or something like that. But yeah, they were just kind of just talking about life experiences, like stuff they encountered, like how to cope. Like I think one of the teachers was Asian, and she was just talking about like how after COVID hit, like you started seeing like more animosity towards Asians because of where the virus came from. But she wasn't calling out like entire races of people on things or saying nobody was doing this, like saying that, oh, white people need to atone for the sins of the past. Like, there was none of that shit happened. So I was like, oh, I guess this is diversity training. It seems banal as fuck, but whatever. It's like, and I've had like stupid little trainings at my job that are equally as banal. So I'm like, yeah, these things aren't really controversial, at least the ones I have experienced. But I know you have. You talked about your woke ass teacher, and I know you talked about her before. But
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's
another
terrible,
example is
Andrew.
how there, there was like a documentary that she showed us where I think it was this place that it was about this school in Sweden, or maybe it was this place in Sweden where none of the schools are allowed to declare the genders of the children. And like brought up the point in class. Wouldn't that isn't that just as authoritarian as someone declaring that you have to declare the child's gender? Like,
Yeah,
why wouldn't you just leave that up to the parents?
yeah, seriously.
Yeah,
Oh man. Well, I don't know, man. Like the whole critical race theory thing, I think it's not something I see personally in my life. I think voting for Trump because of that is equally dumb. Like I
I
get
think so too.
Lindsay because he's all fucking enamored and entrenched in that world, like whatever, but that world doesn't really touch me or anybody I know, like really directly. I
Yeah.
guess, I guess Andrew would have some like umbrage with that because it's probably touched one of his family members.
It sure
Um,
has.
yeah, so I could see how it could be like a personal thing that would drive Andrew to act more in that realm, but
I wouldn't vote for Trump over it though.
and I got two PhD sisters who are actually fully enamored and entrenched in that world. So much so that I think one of them wrote, it has been published in a collection of writings about whiteness. So, so it's not like I don't have family members who are also in there, and she's basically a PhD of that realm. But I don't talk politics with them because
Right.
it's just not worth it.
I love
Well, I talk
very
about
hard way.
surface politics, but I don't talk about like other things that are more that I would consider more controversial if I were to say to them. Like,
Right.
I'll talk about, Trump's a piece of garbage and I read this and that about Trump, but I won't go into how I don't believe in affirmative action and things like that because then an argument would ensue.
Yeah, because that's a sin. That's a sin for that type of person.
Yeah, so I just don't talk about, like I said, I don't talk about my controversial like political opinions with my family. I'll only talk about stuff that we agree about, and I'll leave my contrarian opinions out of those conversations.
Yeah, I do the same. Especially when it comes to me personally, as I have family members. Well, I think all human beings are guilty of getting into these kind of religious fundamental mindsets. Especially with deep kind of topics politically. Abortion, Trump, racism, Black Lives Matter. You name it. These are all kind of like, they're hot, controversial topics. And yeah, for the most part, I do try to find gray area and common ground with a lot of my family members, just because I think at the end of the day, I think that's more beneficial. It's not worth it for me to sever ties with people. Now, having said that, I know a lot of close friends and family members that have gone really wacky, and I've heard a lot of people lose friends and family members divided, and people have had interventions with different family members over different political beliefs. So it's I go back to social dilemma and online kind of infiltrating all this toxicity into our lives. And it's not the only, there's many factors at play here, but yeah, it's fucking nuts, man. It's yeah, it's more beneficial, I think, to stick to kind of like, yeah, common ground and not be, as you said, like contrarian in your beliefs. Cause yeah, you get ousted quick.
Yeah, yeah, I can't really talk about my more controversial things It's just I've kind of tiptoed on some of it before in the past, and I was like, you know, it's not worth that. So I'm just not gonna even do that anymore, because I think it was like really, really early, and this was before I knew like my sister's full political beliefs, and I think she had posted some like super feminist picture. It was like a cup and it said like male tears or something on it, and I was like starting to start like a contrarian conversation about that.
Yeah.
And I was
What do
like,
you,
you know,
what do you
it's not
gain from
worth
that?
it. Yeah, basically, I was like, it's not worth it. Just let her do her thing
Yeah.
over there, and I'm not really. It's not really my place to come and to be a
Yeah.
contrarian, and especially in public, because that is public. When you're posting on Facebook, you're having a public conversation with a bunch of fucking people,
Yeah.
which is another reason why I don't do that in my news feed.
Yeah.
It's not a private conversation.
You know what's
So
hilarious is like a lot of this is and this is funny to connect with kind of James Lindsay is this is a lot of this is in Peter Boghossian's book, How to Have Impossible Conversations, is try to find gray area if you're having, you know, kind of controversial topics, and how to kind of slowly infiltrate yourself into that. It's not often always the best to do that in a lot of cases, but it's funny that we were just talking about James Lindsay, and a lot of I just finished his book like a couple months ago, so it's still fresh in my memory, but a lot of this that we're talking about right now and finding common ground with family members is in Peter Boghossian's book.
yeah, because I know in the beginning of like when things started getting really heavy with George Floyd, I know there were like a lot of memes and things going around on Facebook where POCs were putting forward like these reading lists of like some good and some really bad books. And I think my sister sent like a meme, and of course, I saw some bad books on there, but the only one I really talked about were the ones I thought were good. I just kind of completely ignored the bad books. I was like, yeah, the new Jim Crow is pretty good. I recommend that. I didn't say anything about uh, white fragility or anything like that. I just kind of glossed over that. Like, I'll just promote the ones that are good, and I won't really talk about the shittier ones there in that list. And I know that one of the Ta-Nehisi Coates books that I read was on there too. I wasn't going to talk shit about that either. But if we're going to have a conversation, hey, we'll just talk about what we mutually like, and I'm just not going to bring up my criticisms about the books I think on that list are shitty.
Yeah.
But there we go.
Depends on how much time you have too. I've gotten into some really long conversations with family members, you know, hours and hours and hours. And I think some of these topics, since they're so controversial and they're so multi-layered and so complex, we're human beings and complex, and there's lots of things going on, that I think that if you have a long time to talk it over, it's good. Where if you're sitting down at the Thanksgiving dinner with like 13 people at the table and Trump gets brought up, it might not be the best time to, like, you know, put your 5 cents in there or whatever. Or, yeah.
Yeah, usually I try to be more charitable. Like the closer the person is to me, the more charitable I am. Like I know somebody recommended that Ta-Nehisi Coates that both me and Andrew read. They recommended that book, and instead of just completely shitting on the book, I just said, well, it wasn't my taste, but here's a book that I think is much better, and it's in the same vein.
Yeah.
And I recommended like the James Baldwin book that was basically the template that Ta-Nehisi Coates used, and in my opinion is a far superior book.
Yeah.
I actually liked it. I did not like Ta-Nehisi Coates' book. It just it just pissed me off. I was like,
Yeah,
this
me
is
too.
the worst fucking logic and it just
I
makes
just
me
had to
mad.
catch up on it. I like Glenn Lowry and I like John McWhorter,
Me
and
too.
they did a few episodes where they're completely shitting on his material. So I felt like, oh, I better catch up on this. And I didn't read all of his books. I just read the what is it? The World.
The world
Yeah,
we
his most
made.
popular one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the world. Yeah, that's his most popular one. It's also super short.
So
So
yeah, it is. It's a really small book actually, but yeah, just to
it's
kind of
like, oh, the body's talking about violations of the body, like in every other paragraph. I'm like, this is like repetitive bullshit.
That
Plus,
goes that's it. That's an aspect that goes back to critical race theory too. Like it going back to like the intellectual, philosophical roots of it. They talk about black bodies, how black bodies are being harmed.
yeah, it just sounded like, well, one, it sounded super fucking pretentious because he's
You still there, Dusty? Lost your audio there for a sec.
comparing all this bullshit. Like, I've
Oh,
never been to Paris. It's like, what the fuck, man?
your sound got cut off with the first part of what you said there. I don't know why you were talking about.
yeah, we missed it like 20 a few minutes in there. Oh, did he lose him
You
again?
still there, Dusty? Dusty?
Did I lose you guys?
Yeah, we lost you for a sec there. We
Uh,
lost you before you said whatever it was that you said about Paris.
oh, it's just like, I'm reading the book, and it's just full of complaints, and his life is like far more privileged than mine. I was
Yeah,
like, you're fucking. It's like, Jesus Christ. Like, I understand it that, yeah, you lived in Baltimore, which has some pretty shitty conditions, but now you're off and you're like a high-end college and you're traveling in Europe and shit, and then you're like still complaining. It's like, how many people do you think get to have that experience? You know, not many.
Mhm.
But yeah, I did not like his book. So whenever I see people praising it, I try to push the James Baldwin book on them, which I thought I thought James Baldwin was a better writer, and he had way more nuance in his writing. Um, and he actually had a pretty shitty background. He has a pretty interesting background too, because he was, of course, his father was a preacher, a pastor, who was like extremely bigoted. Um,
Hmm.
and he, I think he brought a Jewish, like one of his friends to dinner who was Jewish. And then after he told his dad that his friend was Jewish, he punched him.
Holy shit! Wow.
Yeah, and then he became a preacher himself, and then he became a writer. And he writes wonderfully. And I would recommend you check. I think I have a copy of it, and I can get you one. I'll send it to you. I think you'll actually enjoy it.
Cool.
Yeah, I do have it, so I'll put it up. It's actually a little bit longer than Coates' book, but I found it far more enjoyable.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Yeah.
And it's called The Fire Next Time.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, I think we should end it there, guys. We're now at Rogan length. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for talking about this. I knew we were gonna have a great and detailed and nuanced discussion about a lot of these related issues to do with the election. And I think the most important thing is that hopefully people will be there will be less animosity between people now, which would be nice. And yeah, so I'll just say all this stuff I like to say at the end of my videos there, and then you guys can say any last words you want to say there before we end it. So, thanks to everyone for watching this Mindgasms podcast. Hope you appreciated our perspectives on it. And I know this is really popular right now because everyone's all really super concerned about politics. So thanks to those of you who subscribe to my channel. Thanks to those of you who click the bell to be notified when I release a new video. Thanks to those of you who click the like button. And thanks to all those of you who have commented and to anyone else who comments as well. And especially thanks to people who support me on Patreon, which I greatly appreciate. And like I always say, I love you all. Keep being a tiny beam of light that shines through the almost impenetrable darkness in the universe. And most importantly, always remember this: the funk cures all, and groove is in the heart. And try to not be so concerned about politics, because the American election is not what the world revolves around. And yeah, anything else you guys want to say before we end it there?
Yeah, no, I think you're right there. Don't let this election overtake your life. Move on and, pay attention to things. Get your life, make your bed, as kind of Jordan Peterson would say, I guess. Concentrate on, because like ultimately at the end of the day, these guys are just figureheads, and a lot of the times they're kind of like, they don't really, not that it doesn't matter, it's just that time is often better spent in places that matter more. You know what I mean? Or you can do more good in your local community than you can worrying about politics all the time. So, yeah,
definitely. Yeah, well said. You back there, Dusty?
I say everybody chill out.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, definitely.
Take a breath.
That's it.
Yeah. Definitely. All right.
Let's go in the jacuzzi.
Yes.
Take a hot shower.
Yeah. Chill out and
smoke a joint.
Jazz.
Yeah, chill out, smoke a joint, and watch some cartoons.
Make an ASMR video.
Yeah. Yeah. Or learn about some fetishes, like I was talking about earlier.
Do some yoga.
Yeah, do some yoga.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again, guys, and adios until next time, everyone.
Right,
oh, Dusty got kicked out there. You can say his goodbye there, too. Adios until next time, everyone.
All right, take it easy.